Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. Strange time to be doing it, a little bit earlier. Mine and Duncan's sleep patterns are probably shredded from other work that we've been doing. So we're going to knock one out pretty early in the day and go to our old man beds in our hospice or whatever the fuck we're doing. Yeah, how you been anyway? I feel like we haven't done a show for a while.
Not bad. I actually made the mistake of basically getting into the kind of scenario you're usually involved in, Richard, which is where I made this comment on Twitter. You probably wouldn't have noticed because to a normal human being, it's such a throwaway tweet, isn't it? Basically, when they announced Twists was joining FaZe Clan, as they want to, they did one of those little mini movies that's embedded within the tweet, right? So normally you click it, and I love watching those because there's normally, like, say it's like a 2-minute clip. Well, you're going to get all the like hypers players, maybe like great caster call. You watch, like just the player frag out. It's actually very easily digestible content. I clicked it, and I'm not joking, Richard, because this is Call of Duty people, I assume, being the ones who edited this, because it's the FaZe side of things. Yeah. And the audience, again, remember, is the 12-year-old kid who, well, now he's 15, but he was 12 when he loved Ninja or whatever. He was, TSM Myth was his favorite player. So because it's that audience and that type of people making it, mate, only you would be able to appreciate this out of the people now because nobody else is old school enough. Like back in 2010, where the reason why every frag movie was garbage is because you had two factors. One, the music was the most aggressively obnoxious dubstep that unless you really loved, you can't even listen to.
Or Screamo by like 10 years before that.
Basically, music that you have to be super into, and if you're not, it's actually intolerable. And then worse, taking really aggressive music like that, trying to, because remember, this was the early OP shit in movie making, was to tie the action to the music. Well, that music's all over the place, isn't it? So the fucking action's going to be ruined. And then we all know this is the real part I'm getting to. What happened was, in the early days, the reason a lot of frag movies were good is just because people didn't know how to use all these programs. So you just made it pretty basic, and the frags speak for themselves. This is the era, 2010, when every frag movie was actually just the guy going, look how big my dick is in Adobe Premiere, though. Look how massive it is. Look, I'm doing techniques you've never seen. And you're like, this is ruining the movie. And like, no, look, it's a bullet time with a 3D actor. And a guy comes in, but the character doesn't even do that in the game. Like, when they do that. And so basically, you try watching, mate, go watch this movie now.
I did. No,
it's mental. It's like some sort of like cock and ball torture. Because every time you're about to see the kill is when they apply the fucking blur or like zoom out or bland goes in. You're like, can I ever just come? Why is this all filled for 2 minutes? Why can't I come? And then this is it, Richard. No. When I had the audacity to do a tweet where I just put, imagine if you could see all the kills. The editor and some other plebs who were all editors, I assume, on some Discord. This is why I say I was in your world, finally, mate, for like Overwatch. They had that thing where it no longer even becomes worth your time to block them because it's like World War Z. They're just spawning out of nowhere. And that person's never going to tweet a second time anyway. Yeah. I know. You literally, like, listen, you have to understand me and Richard effectively, like the guys who were like, fucking John Wick, we are just taking out like 500. But this is like, they're just overwhelming you. Like, there's so many, Richard. And so I'm not even joking, mate. Like, you should see. And by the way, so everyone go to the tweet I'm talking about and look at the comments. Mate, this will show you what I've said a few years ago, which is everyone thinks you're being a boomer if you go, social media is ruined. They go, they wasn't there with people with 40 followers, which should go. It isn't though, it was always like this. And in fact, all popular teams are fat. The ones who are just different that deny your entire life experience. It wasn't like that, guys. I'm telling you, right? I'm not joking. Before FaZe, Optic, and Envy, basically the core dogs came in. You had morons, but the moron would be like a reasonable human, as in the moron would go, so you think Simple's good? You just hate Ziwu, right? That's moronic, but there's at least almost like the basics of almost communication or some sort of a conversation up there.
Signs of life.
Yeah. These kids, I'm not joking. It is like when you go to a mall and the kids are not being looked after by the parents and they're just acting out and being all wild, like it's just 1,000 people going, oof, big yaks, oh fucking hell, look, this isn't it, chief, this isn't it, chief, can't you see, boomer, fucking like, it's like, what even is this? Like, what's the point of the app anymore? This is garbage.
Yeah, I know. Like, the thing that's really boiled my piss lately has been seeing the arguments you've got into, which, by the way, I was ahead of the curve on you and this, is when people are going, I've never interacted with him, and he's blocked me. Never interact with. Yeah, I don't need your permission to block you. I have obviously at some point seen something you've said on Twitter, made an assessment. Everything that comes out of your brain is utterly worthless, and we have no cause to interact on a social media app. So I have prevented that as a possibility. That's all it is. That's all it is. But mate, that one from that esports journalist was just massive chef's kiss. He's blocked me because he's a coward who doesn't want to talk to anyone with a different point of view. Duncan then tweets out her ridiculous, wretched opinion. She immediately goes protected. It's just like the Curb Your I know. Seriously, like the Curb Your Enthusiasm music was written specifically for that fucking dumbass. It's so like
so nuts,
it's mental, mate. It's mental. But yeah, when it comes to FaZe, like in particular, their fan base, mate, it's basically like, if you look at it this way, like the Green Wall Optic fans had a really bad reputation, but they were all out of the Call of Duty fans. They were always kind of the ones that would they're just about loyalty, fraternity. And you know, not really the worst, but if you do fuck with them, they'll all let you know about it.
Okay.
Now, the envious fans are were just glory supporting morons originally because it was Astro's org and they all jumped on. And basically, envious fans are like sort of a bunch of you know, like they're the people who support Man United. The irony being, of course, they supported them just before they went shit and fell off a cliff, like Dave Moyes era or Louis van Gaal era United, right? And then with FaZe, it's just a bunch of spoilt brats. The age has a tendency to skew younger. They look at what like banks and all that are doing with the fucking clout house and the casino. So they are just insufferable. FaZe fans are just the worst. Yeah, just out of all of the Call of Duty orgs, like they are easily the worst. And remember, the reason I can't even plug the fucking sponsor on YouTube anymore is because of FaZe fans. It was because, I can't even remember what video was it we did, Sam, because it was the same day. I did a video basically saying Sargon of Akkad is a moron because he did that video saying after he basically tanked UKIP.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he tanked UKIP to the point where they got no seats, and he said now is the time to join. Things are changing. Yeah, things are changing. It's an irrelevant party, dickhead, because people like you think you're intelligent because you've got a YouTube channel where everyone fawns over you. You go out into the real world and you can't circumnavigate the media with their very obvious tricks and traps. Oh, what an absolute bellend. Anyway, so I did a video of him on like day one, and then day two, I can't even remember what it was I did, Sam, but we did like a FaZe video where we were criticizing FaZe for something. Oh, it was over that High Sky stuff, you know, where they lied about him being a kid. They lied about his age so he could have a Twitch channel and enter Fortnite Cups, and he wasn't 13. It's like, you know, child exploitation. You know, why not? Why not? Why not? And I did a video about that, and you can imagine, mate. You can imagine what my fucking DMs on Twitter were like. You can imagine what. So I just got mass reported on YouTube and ended up having all my videos flagged. I had to get a YouTube member of staff to basically go through. Right, three strikes will get your channel took down. I had 112. You know what I mean? So and then they said, well, basically from now on you can't plug. That's .com. Great sponsor. They still sponsored me after that. So go to .com/RLS. And of course, if you want to get a VPN while we're plugging sponsors, go to nordvpn.com/RLS and get 70% off your VPN there. Right, now, I did say to Duncan off camera, so I'll tell all of y'all, I'm in the shit stage of keto. I've just hit like day one where you're fully in ketosis, so I feel like garbage, bad breath, lightheaded, and then there was the ketosis on top of that.
There you go.
No, I knew you were doing it, mate.
All right.
So yeah, feeling like garbage. So it'll probably be a shorter day. So let's just jump into it. Right. Let's talk about the summit. There was an event. You know, we're back. We're back doing the glorious online Counterstrike era. And the summit was kind of a surprise event. Not many people knew it was going to come. They turned it up. I got to say, overall, just before we start getting in and assessing the results and everything, I wasn't very impressed at all. Like, even for an online event, this production was worse than when me and Sam do the No Majors Club. It was it was way worse. They didn't really have any like good stingers, transitions. They had just a bunch of people on like Discord talking in and out. Audio levels weren't fucking set properly. Discord was lagging it like a motherfucker. people were just sort of bored. There was no like rhyme or reason to the commentary. It was like a really poor showing. Out of all the summit events, I feel like with this one they may as well not have bothered. Like I think everyone who watched it was just like, this is not good. And like I'm not joking. If you ever if we get a sponsor, Sam, that'll put up the prize money for 200 grand, we'll produce you a better show than that. Fucking hell, the bot major was better than CS Summit 7. So I wanted to get that out the way up front. It was just really dry, dour. They didn't even have like exciting pairings like on the bench, you know, like when they were all together on the desk, I should say, rather. And
let's just be real a second, because you're sort of getting to it here, but you've sort of gone around it. Let's just be real. What was the point in the event? The only point of a fucking summit event is to have all the silly clips and funny things, and as you're saying, weird combos and ones you'd never expect, ones that shouldn't even work. Maybe you put like 3 color casters together, but they all just go and have fun shit. Basically, the stupid thing about this event was it was just a below average normal CS event. What was the point of it? I didn't see the point of any of it whatsoever, for exactly what you're saying. Like, I like that sort of shit when they do, but they didn't do it.
I really like the summit, and I've said many times, you know, like when we get back to doing events normally, I'd love to go on a summit event. They've asked me in the past when I was retired, and I'd happily do it. But I mean, this, unless there was like a contractual reason to do this event at this time, I feel like it was a massive waste of energy, a massive waste of time. And
even the people they got as like the players were the most fucking boring players in the whole scene. Yeah, there's loads of interesting players out there. There's loads. But here's the problem. I'm going to say it to all TOs right now. Stop being a star fucker. Stop sucking the dick of a player because he won majors or he's really good at shooting people in the head. It doesn't mean he's interested on camera. Like, you don't even pick the interesting people. Like, what happens is you go out there and you pick, this guy used to be in NIP 5 years ago. Right, okay, and that can't be it. There's got to be a second thing, which is like, Andy also has transitioned his charisma. No, there's got to be reasons. Like, these people just willy-nilly put pros on camera, and the problem is this, you know this. In the short term, there will always be a massive novelty spike to having a player you've never heard initially give his thoughts, right? The problem is that works fine in a post-game interview, or if he comes on for 5 minutes. Now, if I have to listen to 2 hours of someone who actually turns out to not be very interesting 10 minutes in, that's 1 hour 50 of my time wasted, and that was what this tournament was.
The other part to that is, I mean, I think a lot of the players, like, you know, there wasn't really any incentive for them to be there, and it sounded like they didn't want to be there.
Yes, a lot of people looked like, and you know, because that week was where it was like CS Summit, and then there was the Dream Hack going on. Let's be real. Not only is CS oversaturated, but neither of those tournaments were like it wasn't like a blast finals. So I actually feel like even the players, I agree with them, they look like they go through the motions on some of these events.
Yeah, and it's like, listen, I mean, for the event, in their mind, they think it's better you're there than to not be, because they think they're going to get the benefit of like the viewership. But because this event was so rushed and put together, nobody even knew who was going to be on air at any given time. It felt really slipshod and disorganized. You know, if I say at the end of like day one, tune in tomorrow because we're going to have, you know, Simple's going to come on and commentate for the first time in his career or something like that. Right, now you're hyped. Now you tune in because of it. And at least you will get the benefit as a TO, even if it's absolutely awful.
By the way, I'll give you an example of how you do it, right? I know, listen, I'm going to give you examples that I'm not saying I would even be able to secure if I had the event, but this is an example of what that event could do that no other event could do, Richard. Right, here's an example. Obviously, these teams weren't there, but imagine a world, right, where FaZe and Mouse were both at the event. Right, okay, and G2 as well, right? Okay, what you do is you say, you have to actually have the balls to do it, but you go for it. You try and get an event where it's fucking Carrigan and Nico cast the game together.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can even tell them, look, boys, if you want, you don't have to address anything about it, whatever, but you know what? You do what you want with it. Because that's just a fun premise, like you're saying. It might not even end up delivering, but fucking I'd watch that. Who wouldn't?
Yeah. So, and, you know, listen, there was some, like, there was this other weird situation, which I'm not digging him out for it, but it just, again, it just reeks of poor organization. When DDK was on, for whatever reason, because of the time zone he was in, he had to whisper. Now, come on, mate. Like, just don't have him on. Like, You can't have someone on a broadcast whispering, keeping their voice down because they don't want to wake up their missus or, you know, whatever the fuck was going on. And it's like, that's not a disrespect to DDK. Obviously, he's been contracted to come in. But, like, you know, but Dan was like, yeah, and that's really incredible what they've done. Put it this way, if it was snooker, you get away with it. It's not. It's fucking Counterstrike. People want to be interested in the games, you know? So there was, like, all sorts of weird shit like that going on. And it was just like, guys, like, I mean, there's low-effort tournaments, and then there's this. Like, I mean, you've got these great teams competing. There has to be someone's got to be the hype man. Someone's got to come in and at least try and sell it and make it exciting. So I was disappointed with the event overall. I generally like the summit events. This event shouldn't have happened. That being said, it does continue with the passion of the complexity, which is while we're talking about people who should just give up and not bother at the moment. Yes, let's definitely talk about them. Another tournament they went to where they didn't win a map, got absolutely battered. It was by Fnatic and Dignitas. Incredibly, 2-0, 2-0, job done. Rock bottom of the tournament. And you know what's mad? This is how fucked the whole situation is over at Complexity. Yugi wasn't even the bottom fragger. This was his second event standing in for them. Yugi wasn't even the bottom fragger on this. It was JKS. JKS was statistically the worst person at this tournament. Now, I did a video on the Deserto channel. Now, right? Yeah, about a month, right? Ago, where I said he's been awful since joining. I talked about all the statistics. He hadn't even gone positive scoreline in 50% of his maps played for them. And this was a continuation of absolutely terrible form. I've heard behind the scenes he has paid a massive salary, probably one of the highest paid players currently.
He was super highly bid for. It was a lot of big teams could have been on, yeah.
So I think while we get into complexity, yes, it's a shame they're missing Poison, right? You have to understand, when FaZe had to use stand-ins because Olaf was having problems in his life, those guys went to tournaments and had deep runs and even won some tournaments with stand-ins. So this excuse where you have the core four of Rush, Config, BlameF, and JKS +1, the excuse that you can't win a map because you're using stand-ins or JKS is shit because you're using stand-ins. I'm not having it, mate. I know too much about this game. That might work on a moron. It don't work on me. So I definitely wanted to pick your brains about this because I think, first of all, JKS has been a disaster. And second of all, we need to know what the fuck is going on with Poison. And if he's not going to come back anytime soon, I say you're at the stage now where you've lost all the good work that you've done with Complexity. You're essentially back to square one. You might have to think about replacing him on a permanent basis.
Yeah, first of all, I'll definitely agree on the JKS point. Like, I was very hyped when this move happened, and maybe for the first, I'm going to say a month that he was in the team, it was looking like, gosh, it's not bad, you know, it's some good performances here, this could go somewhere. I agree. The last few months have been so underwhelming. You just keep waiting for him to turn the corner, he doesn't, which is why I got really disturbed by the fact that when that whole Extremium thing came along, and the rumor was he was going back to them, if anything, it makes sense in that regard. Like, I definitely always wanted to see him play in a better squad, but that is thus far the only team where he's ever seemed like he truly felt comfortable. So I don't really know what his future and complexity is at this point in time. It looks pretty bad, quite frankly. And I definitely agree on the Poison angle. I know. Well,
I've just been told apparently today, just before the show, they've tweeted out he's back for the next event.
Poison is. No, but as a general principle, I agree anyway, because basically what you do if you hold out forever for these guys in that sense is you just Cloud9 2018 yourself, which is you never ever actually get to play the fucking tournaments with your real lineup. And all you do is every time go, well, this guy's going to be back in a month and this other guy's coming back. These tournaments count. Like, it's one thing if you miss, like, let's say you had some severe health issue and you had to miss 1 month or 2 months. The problem is it's the Orbo scenario back-to-back into the Poison one. It feels like we've never really seen complexity. So there's only two ways we can go with this. Does all the time since Orbo had to leave not count? Of course it fucking counts. Therefore, as you say, Richard, like, there has to be a hard cut-off point at some point in time. Like, this is like... I mean, this isn't even sunk cost fallacy because you're actually pissing away the money you have spent. Like, I agree. Yeah. At this point, I'm sorry. Poison was a promising up-and-coming player who didn't make good on that promise. He was just good at certain times, very inconsistent. Quite frankly, I'd replace him. And if he goes somewhere else, by the way, in 6 months and becomes a god, so be it. It wasn't going to be in my team at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean...
I think, like, mate, this team has to start rolling. This has to start rolling now. We can't keep waiting.
Well, yeah, and the mad thing is, like, some of the shit people have sent me in, like, response to it, like, oh, it's Blame F's fault. In
what way, though?
Well, because he's not a good IGL, and he likes to lurk, and JKS is lurking, and you know, people are just sending me all this madness. Like, well, Blame F's not a good IGL. What about when he was beating Astralis and everyone said he was a good IGL, a fragging IGL? What about when they had like deep runs at tournaments? What about when they were beating people at the Blast? Like, it's like you can't just reset facts because you know, your player that you like is not playing well enough. And there's like a lot of people making so many excuses for JKS right now. Here's the reality. Standing or not, he was meant to come in as a star player, right, and make Complexity better. And in the long term, when Poison got back, they were going to be ahead of where they were when Obo left. That was the narrative that was going to happen. JKS right now is playing terribly. He's playing worse than Obo ever did at any point in his Complexity career. And there's you cannot, like, at least give me an individual performance, mate. At least exactly. you can lose the battle tactically, but you know, you can be dropping a 30, you know, carrying a game, maybe a narrow victory, maybe a narrow loss. There's none of that here. And the idea that we're just gonna like, oh, he's playing bad because he's not being told what to do. He's a big boy. He's a pro player making fat stacks.
He's a veteran as well.
Yeah,
on, man.
Like it's not like some 17-year-old like traveling for the first time. This is a guy in his mid-20s. Like, you know, it's mad the level of excuses that have been made for JKS. And basically, for me, his whole move to Complexity, it's not even that he's fallen off. It's that it's been failure to launch. He hasn't arrived in a Complexity jersey yet. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I just think, put it this way, all that needs to be said about Complexity as a team is because I know they don't have the real 5-man lineup. I just, at the moment, don't even consider them a relevant team. Like, I don't get hyped when I see them on the calendar. When they've won the Blast finals back in, like, whatever it was, like, fucking summer, I was supering on that team. I loved watching them play. I thought, where can this team go? What's more possible? At the moment, it just feels like it's been on pause. Like, ever since Obo left, like I say, it's been on pause. And I want to watch them play again. So get the real lineup for fuck's sake.
That's the thing, because they were a great team to watch, you know, when it was actually, you know, firing on all cylinders. What I worry about now is, like, you go through a roster move, you go through losing a star player to illness for a prolonged period of time. These are the things that kill teams' momentum. I mean, if it turns out that Team Liquid can go on like a fucking player break and then just never be the #1 team in the world ever again,
doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, who's to even say Complexity get back once all the pieces are in place? So, yeah, I don't know, man. It seems to me just ridiculous. Then we had FaZe. They finished last as well. They really went through the motions at this tournament. It felt like, because obviously we know, we'll talk about it a little bit later, loads of changes incoming. But this was, if memory serves me rightly, this was were these the first map? No, this was the last with Olaf Meister. And Olaf Meister was one of the top performers at the whole event. He was right up there. He was FaZe's best player at this event. So I don't know if you wanted to make a point, like, right, I'm wanting to go out on a high, or where it came from. But it seemed to me like almost unthinkable. Everyone else seemed fairly disinterested. I guess it was one of those events where it's like, look, we know we've got a new in-game leader coming. The Carrigan move seems all but confirmed. We know we've got a star player incoming. The Twist move went ahead shortly after this tournament. And we know we've got a veteran going out. So, you know, whatever, let him play. But these guys didn't really do it for me at all. I thought the fact that they had like 2 OTs against MIBR before losing, this new MIBR, the former Boom guys, pretty much says it all. I wasn't really impressed with MIBR at all. And so I think they just wanted to get out there and start work on the next project.
Yeah, I think it's kind of whack, though, I have to say. Like that's one of those areas. This is the point I'll make about this. It won't actually be a point about FaZe specifically, but I'll make it about FaZe in the sense that, like, if people don't know, FaZe are one of those teams where the entire time they've been like a big deal in CSGO, you get paid like 20k to play for those teams per month. So just think about this for a second. Every fan out there who stupidly thinks, you gave me $1 million, I'd do X, Y, and Z. Well, if I had that money, he shouldn't be able to get paid that and do that. These guys get paid over 20k a month. and they'll literally take a load of tournaments and go, you know what? The real IGL doesn't join for 2 months, so I'm just going to fucking mail this one in. And at the end of it, can I still have the 20K? Like, this is one of the reasons why I don't stand on the side of players on most of these topics. Because like I always say, first of all, you and others are admiring you doing all that needs to be done in that regard. You're making all the cases for them. But the thing I hate in this scenario is, like, why did the players just get to fuck everyone in every context and then get the praise at the end? Like, you know what? If you're a FaZe player and you can't be bothered putting in the time or playing properly in a tournament like this, give some of the money back, you fucking immoral cunt. That's just fucked.
Yeah,
it's just a man I'm talking here. Listen, contractually, you're obliged to have that money. But as a man, you're not even a man. You're just a fucking ant. You're a peon. Give that money back, you fucking rat, or play. And if you play, the result counts. Yeah, that's right. The result counts, Kirby. These results count. There's no, but if I had this other player and if I'd got the no, this is life right now. What's happening to you right now is your life. What did you do in response to it? Get banged out and go out the tip. Well, get the fuck out my face then. No tears shed for you.
Sorry, hang on. There's
it's all right.
Morons in the chat. I don't know if my threshold is low.
Just summoned them to the fucking chat, didn't it?
Yeah, probably. There you go. It just proving the point. But yeah, I mean, look, we'll segue into talking about the new moves because this is what has happened. They've signed Twists. Carrigan looks to be coming. And now they also announced today Robban, after he serves his ban, will be the head coach again of the team. I think there was some speculation they might be getting another coach. They're gonna bring him back, and that's going to be the new.
Way, can we just pop a pin in this for a second?
Yeah.
So essentially, we're just remaking the entire team without Nico. Remember, guys, remember, Carrigan was the problem all along.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
I can't even handle it. At this point in time, what more do you need? All the players who were in that team with like a fucking legal affidavit saying, if I could, I would travel back in a time machine right now and do it all again, but just without Nico. Like, how much more right could it ever be on a show, for fuck's sake? This is almost as bad as when I made all those points, like, abstractly about how Lena and Doublelift were involved in conflict of interest. But I said, of course, we'll never be able to prove it, because it's not like we could just overhear them saying it in a room. And about a week later, there was just a video appeared, manifested out of my mind into the fucking Maya of reality, just of them, just actually being overheard on a stream, doing exactly what I said. Like, I can't take any more W's. My face has got a W tattoo. I might just get tattooed on my face. Can I keep getting hit by that W in the face over and over, like I was a fucking piece of paper and you were a typewriter. Whatever.
Okay. So, we'll now do one of everyone's favorite segments on the show, which is that we take a player and we look at the good and the bad. Now, Coldzera is going to be the player.
Here we go.
Yeah, because I know you wanted to say
already.
Yeah. I know you wanted to talk about it, bro. Now, obviously, listen, I'll talk about the good. First off, because it's got to be said, a lot of this is being driven by Coldzera. It would have been the easiest thing in the world for Coldzera to sort of, like, at his stage in the career, just be phoning it in for a paycheck.
Oh, of course, yeah.
He's huge in Brazil. He could easily segue into streaming. He could easily go play Valorant if he was just financially motivated. So many options for him to make more money that don't revolve around excellence in CSGO, but instead, he wants an in-game leader over another star player. He's the guy, apparently, behind the scenes that has told FaZe, please bring Carrigan back. I want to play with Carrigan. He's the guy who said, listen, we need a coach as well. Let's get Robban back. Apparently, he wants a full-time analyst as well. This is these are everything behind the scenes suggests Coldzera wants to turn FaZe into a winning team again so he can get more motherfucking trophies. And I got nothing but respect for that.
Nico thought of some of those things.
I know, imagine it.
Isn't it? It's weird, that, isn't it? He's literally cocking you in your own dog, you dumb fuck. He's doing everything you could have done.
Yeah, but that's the madness, right? Like, when you consider, like, Coldzera and Nico always said, like, oh, Coldzera's a great player because he's exactly like me. But he ain't like you, homie. Like, he's actually played in systems where maybe he doesn't get to do all the cool things he wants to do. I mean, hell, he had to play with you as an IGL for a while, Nico. That's hell on earth for a star player because no one is allowed to outshine the God Emperor. And you're just not very smart tactically. So the idea that Cold Zero understands on some level, whereas like Nico thinks, I'll just go to G2 with the same mindset and we'll be winning trophies over there, I'm sure. It's like, no, you don't get it. Arguably, first of all, if you had just been a bit more reasonable, if you'd stayed put, Nico, you would be on a phase that should be the phase of your dreams. But of course, it can't be because you think Carrigan is bad at his job, even though all the data suggests otherwise. He even managed to make you workable for a long period of time. So I've got nothing but respect for what Cold Zero is trying to achieve here on FaZe, because he's at the stage of his career where he could just fuck off and not worry about winning things. But I'll also just say I saw on the front page of Reddit today, this is the bad, by the way, girls and boys. He just announced, essentially, that Olaf Meister is going to retire. And it's like, why is it... Like, when it comes to the public side of things, Cold Zero is a fucking nightmare. It's always got to be, what can I do to put me in the center of the spotlight? And it's like, that's... Olaf Meister is one of the most tenured, decorated veterans we've had in CSGO. This is a guy, by the way, who was the original player that like really raised the bar and basically set the foundations for a Cold Zero to come along and actually surpass Olaf Meister in terms of what he could do. But Olaf Meister was the first. You don't just fucking throw out the fact he's going to retire in an interview you did, probably without his knowledge, because you want to make it look like I'm in charge and I know what's going on. Let the fucking guy go out on his own terms, please.
Yeah, basically, I mean, Cold Zero, I don't know what it's like in Portuguese, Brazilian culture in this regard, right? But if you don't get it, Cold Zero, you never fucking leak someone else's retirement on your team. That is his announcement to make. By the way, he could even change his mind now and say, actually, I'm just leaving FaZe. I'm actually going to go play with someone else. What business of yours is it to leak it? Like, that suggests like a level of like either complete lack of understanding of like the social, like read the room sort of thing, or you just don't give a fuck. Like in your world, any information that is associated with you tangentially is your information, and it's your announcement to make. Like, why in this interview, by the way, it's with cybersport.ru. It's not like it was an interview, right? You know, on like fucking Brazilian Live equivalent of BBC. And they asked him something like, and of course, there's a lot of rumors around your team and what will be happening. Yeah. And then he just accidentally, you know, in the moments of the cameras and the lights, you know, he misspoke and he said, oh, Olaf is going to retire. Oh, that maybe shouldn't have said that. But yeah, he's probably not going to be in the team. No, this is just like a throwaway fucking CS interview. And this guy, again, is just dropping dime on motherfuckers in a way that ain't cool, by the way. Now, people might wonder, right? Because I'll give you a distinction. When I operate in my world, right? Yes, I have an incredible amount of social media, like mobility, because I can say things in a way that aren't professional, right? But you'll notice I never leak privileged information. That's mine and I was given to in confidence. If I leak information, it's something that's out there in the community that I've found verified from multiple sources that is nothing to do with me in terms of that sense. Like, the reason I bring this up is, I'll tie it back into the thing about FaZe players not trying. Why is this allowed again? So pro players, and by the way, Brazilians have to be the worst offenders ever for this. Why are they allowed to say and do anything they want publicly? Because you know what? I'll tell you right now. Are you ready? You've heard this term used so much it's been ruined in esports. This is unprofessional behavior. By the definition of what professional means, this is unprofessional. That's an announcement. That's his orgs to make. That is the players to make. That he actually, by the way, can't even 100% confirm. It's just at the moment, like the current situation. Like this is, there is no need for this whatsoever. You can even, it's so easy to avoid it. It's all you just say, and you know, and Olaf Meister's future is uncertain. So you do something like that, a euphemism, and it's perfectly fine. Because like at the end of the day, these Brazilian players, they can get away with it now. But God forbid we ever fast forward 10 years to what the media environment will be like then. Like, you're not going to get away with these tweets and these throwaway comments. Like that'll affect someone's career.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, we've had it before as well. Like, I mean, this is like, I don't know. I never understand why players have got to leak shit about other players. Like the Na'Vi guys do, you know, the old Na'Vi guys do it all the time as well. It's like, you know, listen, like if it truly is a retirement, and by the way, I've had fucking sandwiches that have lasted longer than some esports retirements. Let's be real. Like, an esports retirement is a joke into itself. But, like, when we are talking about legendary players, like, and players as well, that the end of their career is not going to be particularly well remembered because they've had loads of personal issues. And that's what it was with Olaf. You know, it's like, just let him write the final chapter. Let it be a surprise one day when people wake up instead of an inevitability everyone's waiting for now. And let him basically say, that's it for me. Now, yeah, he'll probably turn up in another game or probably back in some shit tier CS team at some point. But, it's his first retirement. So at least let him do it. So yeah,
I definitely want to echo what you said first about coldzera though. Take aside this other separate issue, which is actually a fairly minor one. It's just like a pet peeve of mine when players drop info like that. Everything you said there, though, someone clip that thing that Richard just said there. And then every time you get a really great player, Nico in FaZe, could be a player in Astralis in a few years from now, could be whoever you want, Alu in Ents, right? Whenever these players get criticized and people ask, well, they're just players, aren't they? What could they really do? But we're talking about like the star player or the most influential player. What coldzera has done over the last 3 months is what you can do. It's what we all know you can do. You can do a LeBron GM. You're the main player in the team. Therefore, by the way, your contract's the most valuable. And in the same way as you can force your way out, you can also force them to change it so you stay, so you get things the way you want. Like, I actually have mad respect for like what coldzera is doing, because I'll tie it into what I said at the beginning. He could easily just chill and just say, right, I get my 20, 25K a month, do whatever I want. At any moment, I can go back to a Brazilian team, probably even fucking Fury would kick someone to take me. He has the world as his oyster, but he ain't sitting back. He's actually one of the only people who, as far as I know, still practice the whole time with all those shit standard lineups, still seems to play half decent, and now he's making bona fide power moves to get what is going to be, are you ready? I'm going to say it right now, a better team than fucking Nico will have this year. Like, I bet you when they get those two teams together, at the end of the year, FaZe was a better team, assuming Carrigan joins, than the G2 and Nico. And that's a pretty big gamble, by the way, because the G2 and Nico's got some fucking firepower, but I just look at the construction of those teams, and the FaZe one looks super exciting to me, as many question marks as
that was gonna be my question. Assuming Carrigan does join, so Robin coach, Carrigan in as IGL, Twists in as a star player, that's 100% confirmed. He's already played for them, I believe. Like I said recently, I still think in 2021 Na'Vi should be the #1 team in the world. But I look at that roster, I think that can give a few sleepless nights to a lot of those top tier teams, the likes of Vitality, the likes of Astralis. I think that's definitely one to watch.
Put it this way, here's another prediction I'll make, right? Normally, I never promise that people who've been in like slumps of form will return, because like we all know these sports, like sometimes like no matter what they say to you, sometimes they're lying. Maybe the motivation is gone. Maybe they're not putting the hours anymore. Maybe they just don't, maybe they're just shook in the game. That happens every now and then. But I'll tell you right now, I've just seen enough that I can make this prediction. Okay. If Carrigan joins FaZe, I guarantee you Twists will become one of the best players in the world. I will guarantee it. Yeah. It's one of the only times I'll ever make a strong prediction like that, because put it this way, if Carrigan can't get him to that level, he's never going to be one again. Like, Carrigan is the only guy I would trust to come in and know, here's how this guy's game works. Here's what he wasn't doing before. Here's how I need to use it. And that's why they'll be good, in my opinion, because he's already got coldzera in the bank. He's still got Rain. Who the fuck knows what he's going to do with Broken? I'm excited to see that one too. I think his own game's going to be at a peak. I mean, you saw, he basically himself used that last tournament to just frag out on the way out the door. Like, fuck, I'll just get my own game together, shall I? By the way, also banged out FaZe again, just keeps beating his old teams like he always does. So I think you look at it, the combo of coldzera and Twists, if he can get Twists going, and I think he will, I think this team's going to be fucking fire.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you remember what he did when he sort of pulled Rops out of the slump initially as well, there's a lot of, it's very analogous to when he did join Mouse Sports for the,
His track record is amazing. We're getting those star players on side, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like basically, like Carrigan teams have a history of fizzling out. Usually with, for whatever reason, the players he has elevated to greatness no longer believing he can like take them to the next level or whatever. Seems to be something that happens historically. In that sense, I won't just blame the players. It might be something Carrigan does, a flaw in his personality once you get to a certain point. But there is no IGL better for taking a team of disparate parts and getting you a result on day one, lifting morale, lifting ability, people's skill levels. So yeah, the fact that he gets to work with Twists, Brokey, like I imagine he's as excited as the fans are, frankly. So another thing to talk about from the summit, it was another event for Cloud9, the Colossus. Obviously, they had Zeppa at this event. This was the first real good look at what the new look Colossus was going to look like. They lost 2-1 against Furia. where they lost their pick of Nuke, most notably, which is meant to be the Cloud9 home map. They then beat NIP, lost to Furia again. Also worth noting, this is Furia with a stand-in Honda who doesn't look anything like a Furia caliber player and is also horrible on Nuke, Cloud9's home map. Keep those factoids in your head. And then after a stellar start against Fnatic with a 16-6 on Vertigo, they then gave that series up despite being in a commanding position. So, I've obviously talked to Henry privately, and we've had a laugh and a joke, because I said, you do know I'm probably going to criticise you on the well, not you, but criticise your team on the next episode of By the Numbers. And he was like, come on now. That's a bit unfair. It's our first event.
Did you have those big criticisms for this one, though? I thought this was half decent, personally.
Look, all I'm going to say is this is where I'm disappointed with them. They had 2 cracks at Furia, got Nuke both times. That Honda is terrible on Nuke. And basically losing 2-1 twice to Furia with a stand-in.
It ain't great for sure with the stand-in angle. Certainly, I get your point on that.
Yeah, and you know, like, okay, the first time you have a problem, you slip up on your map, you know, 16-14, it can happen, it's Nuke. There was a carbon copy series. That's the madness. They played, I think, the same 3 maps, Nuke, Inferno, Train, in both of them. And tactically, Cloud9 still couldn't overcome Fury. It was very similar scorelines. When I saw the results coming through, I was like, wait, they've made a mistake there, HLTV. Like, no, they haven't. Like, that's actually what happened, because I didn't see the second series. So I don't know. I like, listen, the problem Cloud9 have for me at the moment is that all of the players are playing really well individually. You wouldn't look at someone and go, they played bad at the summit. Like, someone's always got to be at the bottom, but they're all clustered together. Scoreline's really good. S-Tag's decent, had some moments. You know, I still think Floppy might be the best player on the team. Mezzy has proven a lot of the doubters wrong. Zeppa had some good maps, some not so good maps. I think the real revelation for me is Alex's AWPing. Alex took over from Woxic. Some big shoes to fill, and yes, it's a different style of AWPing, but it's one that works better with the Cloud9 system. Dropping Woxic, for me, has already been validated by how well Alex played with the AWP. But if I'm saying all of these positive things, why aren't you winning? These are beatable teams. These
have to come at the end of the day. You know, you can have every excuse in the world. At the end of the day, you have to be a team of them. The money they've spent and the goals of the project, like, I basically, excuses only work in isolation. You know, like, if I ask him for this one game, what happened? Well, you know, the new guy hadn't adapted to the strats. Next game, well, it was a 16-14 loss and we were on the 14 side. Like, yeah, I agree with you. Eventually, at the end, you have to have some fucking trophies. You have to have some top 3s to finish. Yeah, that's my problem with Cloud9, is people were so hyped to either be all in on them as the next top team or just say they're total shit, that, like, both storylines are the only ones people are willing to consider. So my problem with Cloud9 is this: they're just mildly underwhelming. But the key word is mildly.
Yes, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Almost every team they play, they're in the game. They're winning a map usually. Usually they lose a map very close. They lose a lot of close games as well. They remind me of OG when they were on the come up. Like, they just, you know, they're going to lose the 14-14 games. They always do. And I look at them as a team. I agree with you individually even. There aren't even that many weak spots in the lineup. Like, listen, the S-Tag angle only really works because you know how much he gets paid, unfortunately. Otherwise, he does perfectly fine as a player. I actually think Mezzy is the one I think has overperformed the most. Like, everyone was saying, this is obvious, this guy's never going to work. He's fucking never paid it. Well, you know what? All those qualities that Henry and fucking Cassard listed that it would make him work, it's true. He looks fucking damn. Right. This was a jewel in the fucking rough, and they've got him at a reasonable price. He wasn't paid millions. So I like that one. I agree with Alex is doing a pretty good job as IGL. The problems I have is this. The area I believe they actually really lack right now, compared to the teams they need to beat, is they don't have a bona fide star player. Like, Floppy does his best, but he isn't quite there. And also, you can't expect him to carry you for solid tier 1 teams. And then Zeppa's just brand new to the role. Obviously, that used to be Woxic in those shoes. So I actually think Zeppa has a lot of potential. I still think Floppy's a good player, but that's my issue. Is I actually think they look like a pretty decently coached team. They seem to have, like, the concepts down. But yeah, they don't have, like, that guy who takes over the game, though, which is why I feel like they just lose so many close, underwhelming games to me.
And and this is something that, unfortunately, there's no amount of, like, when you commit to building a roster like this, where it's going to be a systems-based team with really good fundamentals. Everyone's playing at a level. Everyone knows what they're doing. Alex has got them well drilled. You know, the working well with Elmer Putty and all that stuff. The problem you have is where's the X factor in that?
Yes.
And you need it. Sometimes you need an X factor. What happens when the system fails? What happens when you get counter-stratted? That's where you need the chaos.
Here's the difference. We all know, pick out any of the big, like 5, 10 players in the world that we all know, right? Those guys can win you a map. You have no business winning. Right now, Cloud9 has to play like 9 out of 10 level Counterstrike based on their abilities to win a map. So it happens, and sometimes they're close. But like I say, like it's almost like they don't have anyone who can break the matrix that way. You know, they play the game, and whatever happens, happens.
The person that it will be, if this team is going to succeed, it will have to be Floppy. Now, I think he can. I think he can do it, but you're still asking a lot from a guy who's relatively new into his career.
Yes.
But this is, you know, look. They had some incredible, like, individual clutches. Like, everyone had a clutch.
People don't know.
Really good team to watch.
They're just an enjoyable team to watch play the game.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about that. But what they've got is, you know, they've got players that were pulling out amazing clutch. Everyone got a clutch at this tournament, but which is fine. But what you need is someone that can absolutely tee off, like do the unthinkable, drop 70 kills in a series, you know, like just absolute insanity. And I think it'll come from Floppy, but it's going to take a while. Like he's going to have to obviously, you know, work on his individual game and adapt to this system and make sure he's playing the way his IGL and coach wants to play as well, while also having that individual bit of flair to know when to deviate from the plan, do something different. So yeah, I'm criticizing them because they should have beat Furia at least once for me.
And it's tournament on paper. Like eventually you have to get a top 4. So, like this should have been one of them. Like I even thought when they got that quarterfinals draw, like fucking hell, Fnac's right there for the taking right now.
Yeah,
this one, and that was a close series as well.
The Fnatic series is mad. Yeah, it's mad because like I think they actually got here's something that happens time and time again with this Cloud9 lineup. They beat an opponent on their pick, but then can't hold theirs. Like that, I don't even know how that happens. Like you 16-6 Fnatic on Vertigo. Like Golden seems to think this is one of their best maps. And then you go on to Inferno, zero pressure. It's like it's Cloud9's pick if they don't get nuke. And you lose that 16-10. And, you know, that 16-10 scoreline doesn't really tell the full story because they got absolutely rolled on the CT side. Their CT side was absolutely fucking diabolical. They couldn't hold the site down. I think that is more of an indictment of the team than if they weren't getting rounds on a T side. Like, you got to be able to fucking get a CT setup working. I know with the economy and everything on Inferno, maybe it does slightly favor the T side, but, like, you got 9-2'd. It's like, it's, you know, it's crazy. And then, all right, you go into a third map. They've played Overpass Cloud9. They've played it, you know. Of
course they have, yeah. It's usually a half-decent map.
They had that game they essentially threw at Flashpoint against Virtus Pro.
Yes.
You know, so it's like that you start to wonder, like, is this a psychological aspect to it? Is it just they haven't had enough time together to nail these things down? Is it a lack of an X factor? But they are in series by virtue of beating their opponent on their maps, and then they can't pick up the ones they're allegedly good at. And when that's happening, that is definitely concerning to me. Now, keep in mind, let's also just analyze. I know it was Cloud9's new lineup, but you can't make that excuse. You played Furia with a stand-in twice. You played Boom, who've just joined MIBR. You played Fnatic, who it was Chiquinho's first event.
Yeah.
So they've got all the same excuses you do. So when you lay it out, you've had all of these 2-1 series, like where you picked up your opponent's map and then lost new Custom and Daft. Like, that's back to the drawing board for me. You can't take what you were doing into the next tournament unchanged, or this is going to be Cloud9's level moving forward, unfortunately. So not a heavy criticism, but I agree with you. I think top 3 at this tournament was doable, and that is the start of the legacy of the Colossus. That's the start of, like, well, we can build on this now. 5th to 6th, like, people aren't going to remember these 5th to 6th that you're getting. No one's going to remember that. No one talks about those. It's podium or nothing. Right. Let's talk about the final. Fnatic managed to battle their way in there with Jaquinio, so good showing for them. They went up against Virtus Pro. I'm not going to focus too much on Fnatic. I don't know if there's really a lot to say there other than Jaquinio looked decent. But let's talk about this Virtus Pro side. That's the team I'm excited to talk about because I think Virtus Pro low-key been one of the best teams sort of in European Counterstrike right now, which is World Counterstrike essentially.
Well,
yeah, this is not
for OP. People don't know.
Yeah, this is not a fluke anymore. This is what's mad about it though is they've done it with that lineup that wasn't doing well, and they've done it with that lineup that people were saying this can never be a top tier team if you have the likes of Sanji on your roster. Turns out, if you want to talk about player development over the last however many months it's been, there's probably no one has gone from being as bad as they were to as good as they are than Sanji. Like, he needs, like, loads of plaudits. Because I know that, obviously, when you sit down and you look at this team, people are, like, all jacked up on Jim because he's the AWPer, and Yakindar just doing fucking insane things now. Yeah, mate, he's mental. Like, he's just fragging out. He's another Latvian, by the way. Like, imagine Latvia getting, like, a golden generation where you've got, like, Yakindar, Brokey coming through. There's probably another one or two players out there in FPL or something. But anyway, you know, this team now, it's madness to say it, but actually, in terms of everybody knowing what their role is and knowing what they have to do at any given moment, at any given
game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. No, I agree with you. Like, the craziest part about it as well is I know for sure there's no way anyone, because no one does it in Counter-Strike, no one sat down and masterminded this move. But I have to say, one of the changes of adding in Yakindar, everyone else will go, well, of course, look at his stats, he was fine. No, it's not because of that. It's because of the contrast of what he does to that team. The problem they had in the team before is James' bullshit baiting style just ruined the team. He had too much influence. But now, because Yakinda's on the other end of the equation, he's a super aggressive, it's like balls to the wall, in your face player who's playing off like raw aim, whereas James just plays only off his mind and he's like quite selfish. It's the contrast between the two. The way they've made that dynamic work makes them almost impossible to play it until you've played and studied them. Because what happens is when you play against people like James, right, you just think to yourself, oh, he's saving 24/7, but that means you don't know where he is. That means you don't know the timing of when he's going to come in, or if he's going to save, maybe he's going to save, or maybe he's actually coming in for this clutch. And then Yakinda, he just, because of the factor that wherever he is on the map, you're never going to know initially. I feel like they do the push and pull better than any team I see at the moment. Like, the way, like, if you ever watch a round that they play, they'll do that crazy shit where they'll get the kills to open a site, rotate back off, hold, and then just go to the other side completely, like with no warning whatsoever. So, like, it just feels like they are the ultimate team where I've heard from so many players that they're the team you watch the demo of and you go, right, I know what they're going to do. And then in the game, you're like, fuck, why? I'm sure I saw that in the demo. Why didn't it's like it doesn't translate to the way they play because no one else plays like that team apparently. So, like, I can see why they're sort of. I have to say, I actually don't like them as a team. I fucking despise watching them play. I enjoy watching Yakinda's individual highlights. I always thought Boston was a pretty good player, but I think Sanji is, like, at this point in time, he is some sort of fucking reek type creature who shouldn't even be playing at this point. Like, this is like, why is James allowed to do this to him? Did he just save this guy's life or something? Pull him out of a fucking burning car? What is this? Or is this some fucking comedy sketch show?
The mad thing is now, if you go and look at the games, basically when Sanji plays well, it's impossible for VP to lose. Like, I mean, he is like the bedrock almost in some fucked up, perverse way for the last 3 months.
Mate, he's the bedrock in the sense of the fucking Flintstones, like that thing where, you know, he has a shit in like a fucking pelican's mouth, and then the mouth goes, you think you got a shitty job? That's Sanji, mate.
It's a living. No, but it's, mate, he like has had this tournament in particular. He had some unbelievable maps, and Yakindar was just fucking, you know, god tier, of course, and you know, everybody had their individual moments here. But I agree. There's a style that not a lot of people sort of talk about, and it's that push me, pull you. You know, we move you around the map. We poke over here. We make you move. We make you rotate. We go poke over here. Like you say, slow, methodical. You know, they'll bleed you out. And Virtus Pro do that very well, like unbelievably well, better than anyone else right now. And I get it. It's not very exciting to watch, but I actually don't mind watching the Virtus Pro games. It's not as egregious as, say, Flipside when they were around.
Oh, of course not. No, that's the place where the reason why I can understand why people do like them is though, like they win from it. That's the distinction. Flipside would draw out an entire game and then just lose 16-40. You're like, why was I watching this? Like, fuck you, everything about you, Blade. This is garbage, mate. But I agree. The difference with Virtus Pro is like they get the result, so I can't complain. Like, it works. It is efficacious. And by the way, all y'all that criticize me don't even know what a word means. Sit the fuck down.
Right.
I 37-year-old man arguing with teenagers that the words aren't original.
So, man, it's fine.
It's come to this. It's come to this.
So yeah, Virtus Pro were able to pick up the win, and that was the CS Summit. There was also an event we won't talk about too much because it's like sort of a bit blasé, but it's worth noting for the finals. Well, for two reasons. We had the DreamHack Open January Europe event, 8 teams in attendance. Evil geniuses were there. You're going to go, well, they must have won then, surely, because the other teams in attendance... the other teams in attendance were Sprout, Hellraisers, Forza, Gambit, Big, Spirit, Fun plus Phoenix. This was a slam dunk for EG, surely. Well, let me tell you, like, EG... Fuck them. Like, they are so done. Like, they are so unbelievably done. I said at the Blast Global Finals, they were my dark horse pick to win the whole thing because they had a period of about 50 days where they were settled. You know, they moved to Europe, they were doing all this stuff. And they had 50 days with a boot camp between Stan and Zeus. You know, the beef quashed. Let's get in the fucking lab and see what we can come up with. This is garbage. This is the most outrageously bad I've seen Evil Geniuses. Because to put it in context, the reason they were 5th to 6th and not 7th to 8th, they did beat that brand new Fun plus Phoenix roster once. They lost the Big and then lost the Fun plus Phoenix 2-0 in the rematch.
And got bodied.
Yeah, and when I say lose, I don't think you understand. They got 11 rounds across 2 maps.
Yeah, they had one that was almost on like Cloud9 levels where they lost on Nuke and they started CT and got like 12-2 or something mental like that for T-side. Like, what?
Yeah. It was 12-3 with their CT side Nuke. Which you know, fair enough. It's Fun plus Phoenix's pick, but for you to only get 3 rounds is just woefully bad. So let's just assess Evil Geniuses and where they are right now. And I've got to say, I don't see how this team can continue. They were really bad at the Blast Global Finals, really bad here. These are the caliber of teams they need to be beating. They're plummeting down in the world rankings. Obviously, the org has given some consideration to pulling the plug and maybe going to support Valorant instead, because that is the rigor for NA orgs. But I don't know what to say. This is like they're in the Team Liquid spot. This roster should work. If I showed someone this roster and like who understood Counterstrike, they'd go, oh yeah, that's a top 10 team. That's solid. Like, that's unbelievable. Stan, Tarek, Ethan, Cirque, Breezy. And they'd probably say, yeah, I don't know about Tarek, like, but, you know, he plays the despicable roles, so fair enough. You know, you would look at, and Zeus is the coach. Oh, well, that changes everything. Now no, this team is terrible. They're terrible to watch. I'll tell you, and I hate to say it because he does watch the show and he might even be in the chat now. He pops up in the chat from time to time. So I'm sorry about this, homie, but you know what? Keep it real. Cirque, he's fallen off a cliff. It's
been terrible, mate.
Yeah.
In fact, their whole team, the most depressing thing is, who were the 2 real studs in that team? It was Cirque and Breezy, right? Remember at the end of 2019, these guys were banging. Like, remember, these guys used to, no joke, like for something like a 2-month period, put Astralis in the fucking bin every time they played them. But I'm talking about the Astralis motherfuckers were like, the era never ended. Well, then acknowledge these guys winning, you cunt. It has to be one way or the other. So the same guys, first of all, they were quite lackluster last year, except that brief period in the summer. They've never made it past that trip to Europe, mate. They never survived it. It's sad. Cirque especially, because here's the thing. Breezy has the sort of game where, like, it looks to me like he's like a player where it's like a lot of the team's based around the resource. Like, that could just be a player playing bad. Cirque looks like he has no confidence in his game at all, mate. It's depressing. This is one of the best dynamic AWPers in the entire world.
I'll get Sam to bring up the performance graph on HLTV. I've sent you a link there, and it's not an exaggeration. This is now career worst form. He's at rock bottom, and keep in mind he's only 21. I mean, like, obviously, plenty of time to turn this around, but this is unthinkable. This doesn't look anything like the player that used to take over games against top tier opponents. That looked like looked like one of the best finds in World Counterstrike, because obviously, he's from Bulgaria, and he wasn't even in with that clique of Bulgarians that went to tournaments and were established. So I don't want to bang on him too much. I don't know what's going on in the team, but I'll just say this: you can only lay so much of the blame on your IGL if an AWPer still can't pop off and drop 20 kills. Like, I mean, you're the guy with the big green gun. Like, you got to be able to deliver statistically. And here, like at DreamHack, it was really, really bad. I mean, like, he had the first Fun Plus Phoenix game, which again was super close. He had like an overtime in the first one. He was the deciding factor probably on that Inferno map. But the rest of the time, and going right the way back to earlier towards the end of 2020, it's just sad. It's just sad to see him playing like this, and I don't know what's going on. Also, as well, I mean, like, people are saying, well, you need to drop Tarek from the roster and bring this roster shouldn't need any more firepower than what it has.
Agreed.
Ethan, Breezy, and Cirque are your firepower.
By the way, on that note, because this is a pet peeve I have, but no one ever phrased it that way. There's another thing I'm sick and tired of, right? It's essentially what every fan wanted to do famously in ENCE. Should we just explain that a second? The same fans who had the gall to say what a moron Allo is, y'all wanted to kick out X7 to bring Sonny in. You don't even get the roles in this fucking game. But this way, all the people I know who've played with the X7 guy, behind the scenes are like, you don't even know how smart this guy's. Like, you always find a way to clutch. Like, they rave about this motherfucker. But you looked at numbers on a screen, and a Serbian and a guy from Czech Republic were like, but the numbers are lower. So you're like, well, kick him out then. Bring in a fragger. Like, if there's one thing I hate in Counterstrike, because me and you had to put up with this for like 10 years in our respective old games, is when you would kick out the guy who does all the dog's body work and you bring in another fragger, right? But as you say, Richard, it's not that he didn't have enough fragging power. It's that one of the guys who's paid and meant to be a star just gets to chill and do okay performances. But because his aim objectively looks better than the fucking support player, he gets to just stay in the team. Like, I've never understood that angle. Like, I think it's kind of whack if you add in like some super duper player and then the guy who you're paying to be your star player now, he just gets to chill and win the medals as well. Like, what? No, it's a fucking game where people do jobs. So, like, I agree with you. You look at this team. I'm sorry, this is the way it works, fans, right? If you look at the team now, I'll kick Tarek if I look at a bunch of demos of Tarek and I see that he's shit at his positions and doesn't play his role correctly. Or if the IGL and players tell me he's causing trouble, right? If I look at this evil geniuses, I'm with you, Richard. I'd literally look at this team and I'd go, right, I'd do the fucking Joker from Dark Knight. I'd call in fucking Breezy and Shirk and go, listen, boys, you've both had your chances. You've had literally over a year at this point in time. I need one of you to be my star player. No point kicking both of you. Snap a pool Q and half, right? We're having tryouts. Which one are you staying? Because that's the point. The rest of the team, you can't even know how it functions if nobody can ever frag anyone. These guys, they are the goal scorers in soccer. You can be the best player ever. If you are a striker and you do not score goals, you cannot play for the best team in the world. You cannot, because that is the game at the end of the day. Everything else is brilliant. You can set him up well. Oh, he's a fake nine. He goes, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you must score. That is your job. So if you are Cirque, a fucking AWPer, that is the most expensive gun that people regularly buy. You must make use of that, or I cannot give you the AWP. And if I can't give you the AWP, I can't even in my team anymore. Breezy, if I'm going to build a team around you, if people are going to play aggressively for you, if Tarek is going to sacrifice for you, if the IGL is going to call around you and we're going to give you the guns, then you have to kill people. There is no two ways about it. Doesn't matter how cool a guy you are. Doesn't matter what you did in the past. You have to perform today. So that's the problem in this team. I agree with you. The first person I'm kicking is one of the big star names, which I know people don't ever want to hear because they're all so dumb. They're like, but he used to be good. It's like, it's about today, though. We got to get results today.
Well, look, the other question is, right, when Zeus and Stan, put their issues aside to basically try and make the CG work, lots of people felt, this CG team, low-key, were going to go on to do great things. I think when all is said and done and we get to the end, man, like, I don't know if Stan is cursed or something, but Maybe he just wasn't that great an in-game leader to begin with. Like, maybe he had us fooled because of that, like, purple patch in fucking Optic or something. I don't
If you
know.
notice, I don't know if you've noticed this, because people often try and draw these contrasts, but it's not even terrible. He does have something weird in his career that is kind of like Carrigan's career, where they both have that, like, first 6 months is awesome. And then when they hit that wall, I mean, even if they stay, it doesn't come back somehow. Like, no one knows why, because it's a mystery, isn't it? Like, in the same sense as no one really knows why they're so great when they join the team. It never made, there's something mysterious about them, basically. They're almost...
Here's the difference.
They're talismanic, but then eventually it flips so that it's a talisman against you, if anything, you know.
Here's the difference. Carrigan gives you the honeymoon period, and then after the honeymoon period, there's some sort of consistent, sustained success. You might not win all the trophies, but you're there, you know, you're there or thereabouts, and then towards the end, yeah, he goes and then he does it somewhere else. With Stan, it's that he comes in, you win the first 2 tournaments you attend, and then you fall off a fucking cliff into obscurity, backbiting, infighting, all sorts of problems, and then that's the end of that. He has to leave. You know, EG, I think the last thing they won was that North American ESL1 Cologne, right?
Oh, it'd be way back that time period. Yeah, it'd be like...
So that's August. That's August 2020. Yeah, they beat Liquid, right? So they haven't. You know what? That's mad. Like that is like a mad level, like of underperformance since then. You know, to be where you're at now, where you're playing these online games and you're getting 3 rounds against the fucking former Godsent lineup. Are you fucking mad? Like this is, and like I say, it's not like they've got any of the excuses all these other teams have. Like the Godsent lineup, or rather the Fun Plus Phoenix lineup they lost to. You know, they've made changes, IGL changes, tactical changes. You've had like 40, 50 days of boot camping. This is your best. This is what you look like.
You're also losing to Chris J, who arguably should even be allowed to enter a server at this point in time. Like,
yeah. Which, you know, we'll get to. But I mean,
he needs an intervention, for fuck's sake, didn't he?
Like, I'll tell you this just straight up. When it was right, we stuck by Team Liquid, me and Duncan, for ages. We used to do the show pep talks. You know, when they brought in Moses, we were optimistic. But in the end, that team just couldn't work. It got to a point where it was unsustainable. I had the benefit of talking to Twist. You can go look over at the interview I did on the channel, you know, and he alluded to some personal problems. He was also in that situation where he had some time off, came back, and they were playing with Fallen as a stand-in, which is, as I said to him in the interview, that's like where you find, you know, your wife's personal fitness instructors just having lunch with her, like, you know, or just round the house, you know. So it's a weird one, isn't it? So unfortunately, sometimes teams get to spots where it's untenable. For me, like, if you getting banged out by Fun Plus Phoenix isn't the awakening you need to realize something's got to change, I don't know what to tell you. But this is a waste of some god tier talent that's going on right now. For sure. And I don't know if it's Cirque who you cut because performances are so bad, or I mean, you still see flashes of Breezy. I wouldn't touch him. I don't know about Ethan. He seems to be like very hit or miss right now. You know. But yeah, this team is just so played out. Like, it's got nothing exciting about it, nothing new. There's nothing going on tactically. They can't hit shots. Like, yeah, it's just whack. It's just a whack EG. And I think they should probably get. I think we're at the stage now where they need to consider making changes, like a la Team Liquid. Sometimes you've got to make those difficult cuts.
Put it this way, in the context of what you just said, this is how how emphatically I would state it. I actually think, no joke, if you take all these 5 players and you cut them tomorrow, but you cut them with an open release, they can go anywhere for no signing fee. Mate, every player in this team could be on another team and should be. Like, they're all competent players.
Yeah.
Like, that's not like this player has to go in the bin. Like, that's why this lineup doesn't work. Because these players could make other teams better. Like, mate, if this team breaks up tomorrow, if I'm like Henry, I might be on the phone. Like, is Breeze or Cirque available for me? I'll fucking rehabilitate this guy. What? And then, you know, Tarek can go and join, I don't know, fucking any team. It's from NA. Like, there's a million teams could take these players.
If Tarek leaves EG, he's got Valorant written all over him, mate.
Probably.
Let's be real. He won't go to another team. He's not interested in fucking digging in the weeds at his age. He'll just go join a fucking Valorant team and dine out.
Or just go join Daps' team and then kick Daps about a month later.
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
Why break the habit in a lifetime?
You know, and I mean, we'll get to it in a sec. He's gonna find if he does do that, he'll have plenty of company. But anyway, let's talk about the Fun Plus Phoenix lineup. Obviously, former Godsent Chris J joined. This was his first tournament there. You know,
Mouse Spots, former Mouse Spots. He said former Godsent, but we know what you mean. Yeah.
No, I mean the team was former Godsent. Chris J joined from Mouse Spots. Yeah. Sure. So. Yeah, let's
technically a Flashpoint team, if people don't know.
Yes, indeed.
Never played.
Well, Fun Plus Phoenix have been poking around the edges of trying to get into the scene for a while. Obviously, they've got lots of money. I still think they could have done more up the food chain than the Godsent lineup. They definitely could.
But this way, I'm going to say it right now. I don't give a fuck, mate. They were talking all that good shit about how much money they had to spend. All I'll tell you is, I brought teams before these guys that cost less than Cloud9's roster. No one was fucking biting, mate. A lot of people, you know this, everyone's talking esports. Like, it really has got... I used to think before, optics was like, right, here's my message and I'm just going to tweak it. Optics in the modern day is, don't put any of our message in there. Just tell everyone what they want to see and hear. So it's mental now. There's not even any connection between truth and fucking media. It's mad. Yeah.
So they made it to the final, obviously beating EG, bit of a high point, and then they got to the final. It's best of 5. For the grand final because it's a DreamHack event, and they came up against Spirit, another team that low-key, I feel some people say it's just because of the online era. I'm not vibing with that. They've got players I actually like on that team. I think Spirit low-key don't get talked about enough in terms of World Counterstrike.
That team and Virtus Pro are an indictment of where the CIS scene is at in terms of like how the economics are controlled, because whenever we talk about Na'Vi, like, well, who could they cut and replace? There's a billion fucking players in the CIS region. It's just for some reason, Na'Vi the org is never allowed to have any of them. It's insane. It's way, way worse than what happened with MIBR and the Brazilian players. Because it's not even like these players are ones where it's like, the Brazilian ones, you're having a gamble on a guy who, has had like half a year who's decent. Some of these players that were in Virtus Pro and Team Spirit and these squads, they've been known for years that were they're good players or the next good player. Like, you just can't get them into the top team. So I agree. They're a team where, if anything, I think it's the other way around. If that team could have gone to all the big lands back there, you'd already have seen some odd upset results for sure. They have talent.
Basically, what happened was, so you remember that old Vegas squadron lineup? That was kind of huffing and puffing around, and they weren't really doing all that much. But you were looking at the roster going, well, they've got Chopper, they've got May, they've got that some Die Young. I don't really think he's all that, but whatever. This is a. Remember when Vegas Squadron had that like purple patch with those players when actually they did have a bit of a run and they were a bit of a thing and they were getting upsets. And they were being talked about. Well, this Spirit lineup is an improvement of what the old Vegas Squadron is, because this Magic's kid is fucking great, and Dexter is one of the guys. Everyone is looking at this kid. Like, everyone is looking at this kid. He's 19 and he
has the most insane.
But we've been saying it for years. We've been saying
people are finally getting to see it in the actual competitive player. Though, like. Think about it. Right? I know your Kinder Tekken's Latvia, but like your Kinder's come out now, Dexter, Shiro, a bunch of others that already, like you said, have been around for. Mate, the actual people don't get it. I think it's the same in NA and CIS. I've always said it. They don't have any problem with people having the aim to smash people's heads in. They just don't have the basics of the game and the other roles. Like, the problem with CIS regions is where the fuck are the IGLs? Where the support play? Like, they don't exist in these regions,
Yeah, but not just that as well. I mean, put it this way. Without putting too fine a point on it, are any of these orgs that have this like phenomenal talent? It's like they've either got money, but you don't know where the fuck it's coming from, and it's just a weird, worrying situation to be in as a player, right? And maybe they don't get to go to a lot of tournaments, or they don't have money, and it is your indentured servitude that will be making them the money.
Yeah,
they are looking to fucking sell you to any org except Na'Vi for a big payday. And you have all those weird situations. Like, what was that org that DK did the expose on, where what was it? Quantum Bellator Fire, where, they went to a major, got into the fucking so far into the tournament at Boston, they were going to be coming back. This motherfucker still ain't paying them money. It's mad, So, yeah, this region has an abundance of talent, but it's not just like you say, where are the support players, where are the great IGLs? I agree. A couple of great CIS IGLs And now we're really fucking
changer,
talking. Yeah, absolutely would change World Counterstrike, unfathomably. But where are the good orgs? Like, and why can't a team like Spirit be picked up by a sensible, normal European organization? Maybe even move them out to Europe. I know it can be weird with the visas sometimes from Russia, but you're all big boys. You'll all figure it out. Like, Spirit are a team that definitely deserve to be at more tournaments more frequently. And obviously the online era has massively fucked that opportunity because of the ping and the regional aspect of it. So, yeah, I really like this Spirit team. They bodied this Fun Plus Phoenix side, by the way. Like, this is, to Fun Plus Phoenix, this is an example of what you could have had if you'd have done your homework. Because I'll tell you now, Spirit are an infinitely better pickup than the old Godsent lineup. Like, even when Chris J gets bedded in, this is about their level. This is about their ceiling. They're good for one upset and then they're done. It's just, it's, I hate to say it because I like some of the guys over there, but Spirit are just an infinitely better team. They didn't get to double figures on one map in this best of 5 against them. And I think low-key, Spirit are definitely a team to watch. I think, like you say, exciting time for CIS Counter-Strike. Also, just a little bit of news, because I'm going to get into viewer questions, because we're making this a short episode. Let's just talk about how Flusher, he went on the HLTV Confirmed podcast and basically said, yeah, that team...
essentially,
with me and Automatic and Sunny, it's over, it's dead, like, it's all over. Which, in particular, like, my heart goes out to Sunny, like, because I know we've criticised him on this show.
He's just zigged when he should have zagged for like 2.5 years.
I know, mate. It's like, listen, because here's the thing, like, we've criticised him, like we do a lot of the time, right? Like Duncan just tweeted it out today. Just because we like you in the game, don't mean we like you in real life. And the inverse is true. Just because we criticised, just because we criticised your play or your role, some of the moves you made, don't mean I don't like you. I like Sonny. I've talked to him enough times, and he's a really cool dude. And like you say, it's just a case of zigging when he should have zagged. Sonny is the one who's the worst off, because Flusher, first of all, he's a veteran, he's made his money, although he hasn't paid taxes on it, so there's that problem. But and as has been announced today, and we all knew it was coming, Automatic has actually gone to Valorant. Like, these are options Sonny doesn't have. Sonny hasn't made all his money and won all the trophies and achieved greatness in the game yet. He's still trying to do that. Automatic, he's an NA player with a good reputation, and a bunch of mates have already switched to Valorant. The door was always open for him. We'll talk about that a bit more in a second. But for Sonny, I'm devastated, because I know, right, like, when he challenged Arlu, I think what he thought was going to happen was the org would make the decision that because Arlu is such a disruptive influence, that he would be the one finally to get benched, and then maybe Sonny could have a crack at, like, maybe even being an IGL.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe his players come in, exactly.
And because Ents is a fucking dumpster fire, they've denied him that. But the mad thing is, I know personally, he was still mad optimistic about this team working out. He thought, right, I'm in there with Flusher, I'm in there with Automatic, big names. We'll probably get an organisation. We can easily find 2 players who'd be willing to play with us, all of our veterans, all of our big names. But what he didn't bank on was Flusher and Automatic. They had other options, and they had options they probably didn't tell you about.
Yes.
And now you found out the hard way. And now Sonny, back in free agency after... a torrid time in Ents. His entire time in Ents, it's been an absolute nightmare. He's just been on the downslope version of Ents ever since he joined. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what's next for Sonny, because the sad reality is he probably ends up on that Fun Plus Phoenix lineup.
He has to be on some sort of a team.
Well,
like
I mean,
he's also not in insane form, so he doesn't really have.
He was linked to a Godsent before they joined Fun Plus Phoenix. It's like, he's too good for that.
Oh, I'm sure he gets in the team because that Zen guy probably just fucking gets the hook up when they used to be in Pent or whatever. So, well, the sad thing about his career is, I agree, what a shit career he's had. Because he went on the Penta team where he looked very promising. He gets into Mouse Sports, makes them champions, number 2 in the world ranking. Like, they're even getting legend status at the majors. By the way, staying on Mouse Sports on that team, that was one of those teams where, because Mouse were like fucking FaZe Junior, if you're a skilled player like him, the options are there. You can go to a team like the FaZe Clan, and people know after he decided not to stay when they brought Carrigan, thanks to our boy Alu, he fucking had his chances to go to Cloud9, or he could have been in other top teams. There's plenty of teams in the world wanted a guy of this guy's caliber. So the saddest thing is, he's not only zigged when he should have zagged as well, but he's even in terms of like the career opportunities. Like, for example, when he goes to ENCE, he's accepting a way lower salary than the teams I've just referenced, but because he wants to play with Finns and play with Alu and do things back in Finland and accomplish something great. Remember that team at the time was, last year they were number 2, or, all that garbage. So basically, he's taken pay cuts, like let big opportunities go by him. And sadly, he's now in the position where, as you say, mate, at this point in time, those are the only teams he'll have left. It will be like a FPX or another fucking mixed team or something like that. There's not really the opportunity. So sadly, it just shows how you've got to be so careful with the choices you make in your career. Like, I'll tell you right now, if you're a young player, don't ever make choices based on friendship, based on like, here's another move you never do. You never give the business the fucking discount. Oh, I'll give them a discount on my salary because they say that if we do really well next year, they'll pay us twice. No, they won't. That's just words, mate. Like, you always take a deal that makes sense for you, that makes sense for where you're going in your career, that plays with the right players. Don't ever do it because it's like, well, I like this guy. That ain't a good enough reason. But I'm friends with him. Be friends with him outside the event after you win it. Tell you what, when you win the event, first drinks are on you. I used to say that at Shock so many fucking times.
I know.
Can you not just buy? Can Smiths not just be on the other French team? Come 8th place, you win the tournament, and then you can have a fucking party all night, you daft cunt. This doesn't even make sense. I even once joked and said that would even work for him because he can go out in the group stage. Then when he parties with you after the semis, he's not fucked for the final, is he? Like, I thought it was straight fire as a joke. You know what, though? You know this. Shocks doesn't really appreciate my sense of humor, does he? So it doesn't really vibe with it. He's too nice a guy, and that's the problem. He doesn't vibe with it. Like, before, he just didn't know what I was saying because I was just speaking very quickly. When people translated, he wasn't a fan either. So
no, yeah. Your sense of humor definitely doesn't vibe with him at all. But listen, let's talk about the automatic thing. Obviously, like as I said, this isn't a surprise. It was always an option that was on the table.
He's another motherfucker zigging and zagging for a few years, isn't he? Fucking hell, mate.
Yeah,
and taking him, telling him you've just won the major, and go, what's the next few years like then, Mitch? It's downhill the whole time.
Yeah. You end up on a non-team with Flusher and Sonny. What? Anyone else? No, literally just those two. Yeah, it never comes to life. Yeah, it's mad. He's joined T1 as well. One of our favorite orgs. Those cunts, those fucking rats, and he's replacing AZK, which kind of tells you where along in the life cycle Valorant is right now. Because the first guys who were there,
15 CS.
Yeah, they're getting replaced now. So the people who were first the memes of the retirement home are now getting replaced by the second gen of the Valorant retirement home, and they will be replaced by actual straight fire young players who got bored of Fortnite, who are going to come up and bang everyone's heads off, and that's the way it is in esports since time immemorial. But anyway, I'm sad to see him go. This is a player with so much unfulfilled potential. A guy who was a fucking journeyman till he joined Cloud9. Never found a lineup that worked. Argued frequently with some of the other players from that generation. That could have been a great generation. Probably worth a documentary in its own right to explore because, it was like Automatic, Sick. There was like another bunch of players. Obviously, Twists is the guy who made it from that generation. But there was a bunch of players as well whose names escape me because, it was just a generation of players that could have been great for NA, but it just didn't work out for whatever reason. But anyway, like you say, after the major, Vice, another one in the chat. After the major, I felt him and Stewie were going to be like fucking simpatico, wherever, because Stewie brought the best out in Automatic, but Automatic brought the best out in Stewie. Those two never looked so good as when they were playing with each other
for many years together. Exactly. I can't believe they split up. It's unbelievable.
I know it's wild. It's like that could have been like an NA Forest get right kind of thing.
Yep.
And obviously without the accolades, without the excellence, the 1.6 pedigree, but they could have, when Stewie goes to Team Liquid and there's roster changes being touted, get your boy. Like, I really wanted that to happen in the back of my mind. I know I was talking about Fall, and that just seemed to be a move that made more sense. I didn't have any particular insight. I didn't know he was already playing with them, but it just seems such a waste. Like Automatic, that period of time when he was on Cloud9, he was one of the top players in the world. Like, I mean, no doubt like that. It was form, but it's still a fact. And hybrid AWPer. I just don't know. Like, it just seems crazy. He's gonna get a big fat paycheck in Valorant. Like, so there's that. But I don't mind when some washed up cunt goes to Valorant.
Oh, of course not.
I don't mind because, like, yeah, go get your bread. It's like, listen, we all know essentially as well. Every time that happens, what the implied message is. Can't hang in CSGO. It's all right. You know, there's a version of CS that you can go play. It's called Valorant. It's fine. We all know that this is the real shit every time someone does that. But when I see a player who I know could still be playing in CSGO, I either question their desire or, more likely in this case, I just question everyone else's wisdom. You roll a dice on automatic. You know, I mean,
these are the ones where you see that the people who have the money in CS:GO don't have brains or don't have balls, because these are the easy ones to buy. Like, put it this way, Richard, when we're talking about players that don't even have contracts, they're free. All I do is pay them a salary. Like, mate, these GMs are trash in this game. They're garbage. Yeah. Look at some of the players they do pick, and then they're not going to pick up fucking automatic. What? Yep. Unless you heard and there isn't, by the way, unless there was some outrageous behind the scenes story, you know, I'm talking it'd have to be on like Antonio Brown level.
I heard some rumors. And you know, I don't like talking about rumors.
Surely.
But you know, it was the usual. Apparently, like, you know, it was a big salary, and then I think something to do with having a girlfriend, maybe wanting them moved in with him and all that. But it's like, you know, whatever. This is like, if we're a real sport, these are the types of considerations you have to start making. If I don't have to pay a fee for you, if I don't have to pay a fee for you, then all right, maybe the other stuff is worth it, you know? So I don't know. I mean, like, for me, automatic is a player. Like, I don't care what he wants. If there's an automatic shaped hole in my team, I'll just get automatic. Like you say, free player. And this is the mad thing as well. Look at the talent that has gone to Valorant lately, right? And how some of them definitely could still be played right now. And meanwhile, envious are like, yeah, we're waiting for the right time. Fuck all of y'all, man. It's like you said, these GMs haven't got a fucking clue. They want talent, but they don't want to spend. They want star players. They don't want to pay them star player salaries. They want to, like, play Moneyball in a game that you know nothing about. You do understand as well, the premise of Moneyball was that the guy who wrote the Moneyball book understood baseball inside out and also happened to be a mathematical genius. You're a fucking cunt who played Call of Duty. Do you see the difference here? You don't get to play Moneyball. You're a brainlet compared to the guy who come up with that system. So yeah, it's sad. It's sad. But at the end of the day, I mean, he'll make his money, and he'll be a top player in Valorant for the first year or two. No doubt about that. So right, I think that's all I want to talk about now, because we've got all the viewer questions to plow through. So, all right, one more bit of news, because it's relevant to what happened today, because NIP beat Astralis 2-0 at the Blast Spring event that we'll probably be talking about in the next episode. But they benched Twist before this tournament and brought in one of their academy players that they've had signed. Now, won't get into all the academy bullshit, right? But they brought in a kid called ZTR. He's 17. He's been playing in Young Ninjas since they were signed, and doesn't obviously have a particular lot of tenure. Prior to that, the Young Ninjas were playing teams you've probably never heard of, and he was okay. He wasn't even that good. But today, in this team, he absolutely popped off against Astralis, by the way. He was the reason they won. He was so good for a 17-year-old making his debut in the bigs. Pretty crazy. But anyway, I just wanted to give some thoughts. I think NIP are like the forgotten team of World Counterstrike in a lot of ways, because they're there. They're knocking on the door. They're like... they're knocking on the door to be in the top 15. I think they're like 17 or something right now in the world rankings. But they've been limping along in these tournaments, and just mid-table finishes. Win here, lose here, nothing. So cut and twist, it's probably the right move. I think he's a guy who's absolutely wasted his career.
Yep.
And if they've got young talent that they have faith in, and it definitely seems to be working, maybe NIP could be on a comeback with this kid. Maybe that's what they needed, just a bit of fresh blood. But Twist to me is like an enigma. I'll never figure out how he is content now at like almost 27 years old to have had the career he's had. What compared to what could have been. Remember, he could have been in that NIP when they were still good.
Yeah, if people don't know, the problem with Twist is as you say, he's so old, like in real life terms for a pro player, and his tenure, like using all of CSGO, all of it. Yeah. So the problem with this is like, it's not someone where, right, basically, if someone is young and they have potential, but they have issues, obvious examples in my career would be Device, Elige, people like that, right? Because they're still young, there's a chance they can figure it out. They can become self-aware of what their issues are. They can work on them. They can get a sports psychologist. They can maybe just go through the fire of playing and be battle tested, The problem I have is if you ever talk to any of the players who've played with Twist for the last 3 to 4 years, it's the same story with all of them. And it's such a broken record. And it goes like this. Oh, his skills are fucking incredible. You don't know what he's like when he plays scrims, and if his head's in the game, he could be the best player. And it's like, I don't care about any of that though. Like, I just watch him in the fucking official matches in the server. And he is an incredibly hit and miss player who, yes, clearly has good raw skill, but looks like his mentality has always been fucked in this game. And I have a rule, which is when a player like him has had the chances, a million chances to change, to reflect, to improve, if they themselves don't believe, and I'm talking about like I'm inferring based on how I look at them play and how they appear to put themselves in situations, if they don't believe they're a star player and a top player, then I believe them. I'm not going to disagree with them at that point. Like if you're that fucked in the head, you can't ever turn it around, then get out the team. So when I look at this team, I never thought Twist should have been in this last version of the team ever since they got rid of like Forrest and the old school players. He should have gone with them, mate. They already should have been trying out some other Swedish player because the rest of the squad is good. Like it's weird because Nip, I agree with you. The weird thing about Nip is this, I know this will sound mad, but it's actually, in my opinion, because they're a threat coach team. They basically play to the level they're currently at almost all the time. They never go super high. So they never have that fluke where they make like a final out of nowhere. They never just go out in the last place in the total group stage and total shit. They just play presumably how he coaches them. They just play a consistent game based around certain factors that make sense when you watch them. I actually enjoyed watching them play, particularly last year when they were in like a little heat around the summer. I thought they were a pretty cool team to watch. Them and Mad Lions were like the future of Nordic Counterstrike, it looked like. The problem is they're another team that still is desperate for like a superstar player. They've got all the other pieces. They just don't have that one like top 20 player in the world, which at the moment practically every top team does. And then the rest of the squad, I mean, I actually hope this move is one of the kind of like transition periods to getting out of it, because Twist was someone who was never going to go anywhere further in his career. You've already seen the best, I think the best a couple of years behind at this point in time. So he also is another player, by the way, where he's had periods in his career where he was like the dedicated AWPer. I know when they first brought Nork in this team, they were like speculating, maybe Nork won't be the main AWPer. It's like, what are you talking? Like, there's another thing I'm sick and tired of. Twist the main AWPer. That was some shit from 6 years ago or something. Like, This guy also, his head isn't in the game to be a primary AWPer all the time. So I just had my issues with him as a player through most of his career. I thought he was kind of like the Swedish Nex. I get why the players fuck with him and always just hope he figures it out, but he never was going to. You've got to know eventually, rip the Band-Aid off. Like, they're never going to figure it out.
Well, I mean, look, like when you talk about players who've had chances, in his CSGO career, he's played for every top Swedish organizer.
Yes.
Everyone. He played for SK Gaming right back at the start. He's played for Godsent. That Godsent, like the original Godsent that got picked up. Fnatic. And obviously now Ninjas in Pajamas. And via way of Red Reserve, but they're not a good org. So it's like you say, he's played alongside probably every top Swedish player that there's been. Yeah, maybe not at the ideal points in their career, but it's ridiculous. It's like, what the fuck? What more do you want? Like if a kid like ZTR can jump into a fucking team and go, I am so happy to be playing with people who, let's be real, this NIP team aren't big names. Right, like this wouldn't excite you. Like Rez is the star of this lineup. That's all you need to know there. By the way, I think Rez is a phenomenal player, and I'll just add, I do feel vindicated about all the times I've said, please get Hampus as an IGL at a decent team with a decent squad around him instead of trying to make Lekro an in-game leader and all the other moronic shit. that's been going on. I think Hamp's doing a great job, and I like Threat as a coach. And we even joked about Plopsky on the show, saying just because his name is ridiculous, he's going to be one of the top players in Sweden. He's been playing really well. It's like you said, Nipper just consistent and quietly consistent. Well, today, what they've done in the absence of Twist is to take that beyond and actually beat Astralis 2-0. Not a comfortable win, but a convincing win. So. Yeah, I'm. For me, I just think he's a player he's another one. Like, keep an eye out for his Valorant announcement. He'll be another one of these Europeans going to Valorant, because I'm telling you, like, he's done in CS now. Like, and the sad thing about his career, contrasting it to Automatic, he had all the chances. He had second chances and fucking third chances in some cases of his career, and he just never. He just wasn't interested. Like, some people actually love the game. Twist never did. I think that's pretty much apparent based on, just some of the decisions he's made in his career. He liked playing with some people. He loved some of the players. He never loved the game. He never loved the idea of trophies. He never loved the idea of a legacy.
Also, even though I know certain pundits in sports have obviously they've made that concept of killer instinct into a meme, right? The whole does he have the clutch gene or whatever, right? Because they apply it too fucking strictly, right? The problem with that is it makes idiot fans, and I know a lot of pros in sports don't believe in that either, by the way. They do that thing where it's like, no, he was a good player, you just didn't get his chances. That is a real thing. There is a certain mentality to compete that if you do not have, no amount of skill will help you. Yep. Literally, you could have the best skills ever. Even if it's just you aren't a guy who's a super competitive guy, that'll kill you. That'll kill your whole career. And this is one thing this guy's career just showed over and over again, is that he was just someone who in the video game is good, but something about his mentality never lined up with being a killer. Think about the interview where I even put it as the headline when I did my reflections with Get right? One of the things I tried to stress in my reflections with Get Right is it's easy to do the Get Right interview, which is you had one of the best careers ever. You were maybe the best Swedish player ever. You won majors. Let's talk about the championships you won. What was it like to win this? No. What I wanted to do was the interview where, because he's done that, it's what about this, Get Right? You won all those majors, all those championships, but I know you're a guy who's tortured by the 6-7 majors you didn't win. Yeah. And the times you thought you could have had all the majors. You could have been the guy to win 5 majors in CSGO. You could have won 5. That's the shit I want to know, because what people won't get is he's not exaggerating when he said that headline of every tournament, every trophy was mine. That's the mentality he had. It wasn't wow, we won this one, that's cool. Well, get him next time on the next. No, it was it's the ones that you lose that hurt you more than the ones that you win make it better.
Yeah, of course.
Even though, by the way, I know this is what I always have to add in as a caveat though. Understand there's almost a sickness about that. That is a mental obsession that will essentially potentially ruin your life. The problem is this: when it manifests in the right individual with the right circumstances, it makes the highest peaks that we have in any competition. And people don't think, by the way, that Tom Brady is mad unhealthy mentally with how he's thinking about American
football. Of course.
He should have been retired about 5 years ago. There's no good reason to be playing now, but he's just so dialed into winning.
Yeah, it's what happens when he can't play no more. What exactly. Because he's been a good clean cut guy his entire life. So what comes next, right? I mean, if he doesn't get at least a pundit's job, you could see Tom Brady flipping out, couldn't you? But no, it's a good point, because take for example, right. Let's look at the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls, that legendary lineup, right? When they brought Rodman in, right? So they brought Rodman in from the Pistons, it was, right? Wasn't it? The Spurs, sorry.
Yeah, he was just
he was in the Pistons before. Yeah, my bad. I'm digging into the recesses of time here. It's a bit foggy. But yeah, when they brought Rodman in, it was because they said he's got the same mentality as us guys. He wants to win at all costs, and he's going to do all the hard work. That's how he wins. He understands his strengths. It's not shooting, it's spoiling other people's games, winning the rebounds, psyching people out and giving it. The problem is, right, Michael Jordan is a flawed character, personality wise, but he's obviously infinitely way more stable than Rodman. When winning doesn't come your way, and when there's no more adoration left, you end up with what you've got, drunk Dennis Rodman talking about how he loves Kim Jong-il and how he's his best mates and stuff. That is the fucking flip side of that sickness. You can be an MJ in retirement and still quietly bitter about tournaments you didn't get if you're that kind of obsessive. That's about as healthy as you're going to get. Or you are going to go full fucking Rodman. You're going to just be an absolute fucking mess. I use him as an example. I watched that documentary they put out recently. Like, fuck me. I knew he wouldn't get through it without crying. He's fucking...
No way. He's
fucking...
a trick. He's like a 14-year-old girl. His emotions are just all over. He's just being bombarded by a wave of emotion every minute, isn't he?
Yeah. It was like, it was ridiculous. And it's like, you look at his life, mate. Like, it was unbelievable. But he wanted to win everything. He wanted to do it with, like, good people around him and sharing that glory. And when he had it, even Dennis Rodman could be normal. When you don't have it, you know, your whole life falls apart. So, right, anyway, let's do these viewer questions, because I always leave like half an hour at the end for the viewer questions, and then, of course, hundreds of questions, and like the podcast runs to 3 hours. So there we go. Elon asks, if there was a Soviet version of CS, what would be different about it? I mean, listen, I think we've already got a lot of good Soviet-themed FPS games. Like, I don't know, I mean, like, I know it's not really cut out to be an esport, but Escape from Tarkov was a good idea that's been run into the fucking ground, by the way. That game was good at the beginning.
Like an interesting idea for a game, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was wicked when it first come out, and then... the choices they've just made and the direction they've took it in, like, it's unbearable to play now. Right, okay. It's unbearable. It's like, it's not fun. And, you know, obviously we had all the Stalker games, we had the Metro games, so there are like FPS games out there that have that Soviet themed.
Here's the thing, right? Because what I'm struggling to get into, this is the problem I have with the question, is to actually answer a question well, you often need to know what the mindset.
What the premise is. Yeah.
So basically, I can't tell if he wants like a meme answer, like it'd be like this instead, or if he actually means like for real. Like, for example, if I was going to answer seriously, as in if if a Russian or CIS studio made this game, I think the only obvious changes you'd make would be you'd lay it on a bit thick and imply that, like, you know, maybe American forces are actually like a terrorist angle. You know, maybe you could do some clever angle like that. Like, maybe you could have an aspect where a bunch of people who actually lived in an area in Iraq were defending it, and it was American troops coming in to attack it. You could do something edgy like that if you wanted, because obviously if you're from somewhere like Russia, you want to sort of like, I would say, like, you know, like, be subversive in your implications.
Well, yeah, but there you go. I mean, that's the obvious thing, because obviously it's an American game. You go look at all the counter-terrorist forces; they're all European and Americans. You look at the terrorist forces, and while this has changed recently, like most were, like, you know, the stereotypical Middle Eastern, you know, terrorists.
I will say,
from
by the
that
way,
time.
just because no one else makes these comments, it's almost what I exist for, right? I will say, even though in the context of when CSGO came out, it definitely didn't mean this. I don't have those fucking like voice commands turned on, because I've always hated that shit anyway in CS.
Yeah.
But that voice line for a terrorist now, in the context of what like ISIS etc. became, where it goes like, "Haha, run, little girls," that's mad dark. Like,
I know, yeah. Well, no, but it's just what I mean. Whenever the topic gets brought up about, you know, should we like change the name terrorist, counter-terrorists and stuff like that, like, they're the things I think probably that you have to eschew from the game. Like, you know, people wouldn't cry about Counterstrike and its perceived like edginess anywhere near as much if it was focused on, you know, like drug cartels or something like that. Like you know, it would just be, you know, run of the mill. But unfortunately, yeah. So I think that'd probably be the big change. Unfortunately, because America controls so much of the English-speaking sphere. You know, there's this idea that even their most egregious and outrageous foreign policy is somehow like tacitly acceptable, because on some level they're the good guys. Whenever you actually, you know, if you just know your history, and if you're not American, you know, a lot of the case, some of the things they've done in foreign countries are completely fucking indefensible. Yeah. So, and I think like Russia being a superpower in and of itself, I don't think they'd have any qualms about representing that in their media, including their video games. So, right, BP420, who are the most insufferable and pathetic? Is it Trump reply guys or Skip Bayless reply guys? Now, for those who don't know what a reply guy is, it's the losers they've even got bots in some cases. So as soon as somebody tweets, they're the first reply, and their entire career is basically, look at me insulting this person who's known for being a bad person.
Put it this way, I'll give everyone a free bonus laugh here. One of these guys was really bad, as in his replies weren't even funny. Like, I'm not even joking. He'd actually used the literal hackneyed meme format of like, like, "Sir, this is a Denny's," to Trump 10 times. And this is where it gets God tier, because after Trump literally, like, it was announced that, like, Biden's in or whatever, he even did a tweet where that guy was like, I can't even lie, I'm sort of, don't know what's going on in my life now. And someone just said, this is where everyone missed a trick, because someone obviously should have just done it as a format where he's saying, like, I don't know what I'm going to do in my life now, Trump's stuff. And then the guy just goes, "Sir, this is a Denny's drive-thru," like, or Wendy's rather. Sorry, it's Wendy's is the there's a Wendy's drive-thru. Like, someone should have just made him meta contextual within his own nightmare that he made. So people don't know, these guys are just shit. Like, they're actually just garbage. So, like, it's actually
I think the biggest L I ever saw was because obviously, on the other thing I do podcasts and shows about is basically the media and how pathetic journalists are, and how debased American journalism's become. One of the biggest L's I ever saw was there was a female journalist, Trump reply guy, that would reply to all of Donald Trump's tweets with pithy one-liners that I'm sure she thought were unbelievably intelligent, and then she got blocked, and she wrote an opinion piece saying, "Trump has blocked me. It's essentially really harmed my career." And it's like, if your entire career, and I think she even got involved in that class action where it was ruled by a judge that Donald Trump, because he's the president, isn't allowed to block people because they have to have access to the information.
By the way, a crazy concept for you there, Richard. Think about what that implies about Twitter just removing him entirely. No, but that's the hilarious thing. It's the clown world we live in.
That's the hilarious thing, right? A judge has ruled he can't block people, but it is okay for a fucking big tech company
while he's still the president.
To completely remove him from the face of the earth. Well, I mean, we say it. It's not even just Twitter. But
everyone.
He got removed from everything. So Trump replied, guys.
He wasn't even on. He was removed from like Shopify or something. Like, all right.
Yeah. Trump reply guys were a special breed, because we have to understand the Skip Bayless reply guys, because sports talk and sports discussion, it's a medium. Yeah, it's a medium where you do banter back and forth, and you do go extreme, and you do call people arseholes if they don't homer for your team and stuff like that. And Skip knows that. And this is the thing. People seem to think Skip Bayless isn't aware that he's Skip Bayless. Not only is Skip Bayless aware he's Skip Bayless makes a deal with himself. Skip Bayless makes a deal with himself every year to be more Skip Bayless than he was in the year prior. Mate, when he's taking selfies of himself, like with his fucking top off and his old man weird leathery muscles going on, he knows what he's doing.
By the way, can I just jump in a second quickly?
Yeah.
When he does those pictures you're talking about, Richard, he's a guy
Bayless,
whose face literally looks like the fucking crypt keeper out of that fucking 80s, like Tales from the Crypt. He looks like that. He is fully aware of that, you fucking morons.
I know.
When he does those pictures, and then the 16-year-old kid goes, "Oh, look at this boomer." You're the one who got tricked. Yeah. You're the whole getting turned out on his social media for engagement. And by the way, unlike me and Richard, who don't get anything, we only suffer from putting our opinions out there. He is literally farming your engagement for a literal $1 million contract. I think he makes like $5 million a year or something. Yeah. So when you all get mad, like, "Oh, brilliant, look at this idiot. He doesn't even know anything about the game." You're the reason he exists. You're the fool. You're the mark, and he's the one winning. You think you're dunking on him. He wins because you dunk on him. It's like me. This is the maddest thing Skip Bayless ever did. It's why I can fuck with him. He made his opinion more important than even the biggest pro player in the world. You'll argue more about his opinion than if Michael Jordan said something. Remember, me and Skip Bayless don't play the fucking game. By definition, we in theory should be irrelevant, but y'all can't keep our name out your fucking mouths, so we win.
Yeah, well, to put it into context, back in 2020, like midway through, there was a lot of speculation about whether or not Undisputed was gonna, stay as the, a signed up podcast. Maybe they might cut it, because the viewership had really, really declined. And to put it into context, by the way, about what constitutes good viewership, the average viewership of the Undisputed podcast was 175,000 viewers, right? Which, that's not a massive number, is it, right?
Oh, yeah.
But, it would occasionally, but like, that's the world that you're existing with, like sports podcasts and stuff. You've doubled that, and that's an insane number. You're the king of the hill. It seems kind of passé by what we do in esports. So anyway, he came out, and if you remember when Dak Prescott...
probably his worst moment in his career, to be fair.
Well, I couldn't believe he said it. And I think I even said when I was on a stream, I was outraged by it. Well, not outraged, but, Like, I don't understand if someone can be so callous.
Opinion, certainly.
Yeah, well, it's unbelievably offensive. Basically, he said because that Prescott had not only said he'd suffered with depression, but also was essentially grieving like the death of his brother, and it fucked him up mentally. He said real leaders can't be like that. But here's the mad thing, right? And it puts it in context probably as to why he did it. The next show where he talked about that topic was the second highest rated Undisputed of all time. The biggest rated it had been in about fucking 18 months. And it got over 300,000 viewers.
This is how whack the current generation is. They think that's an accident, Richard.
No, I know.
They think he trips over and scores these numbers. Like, this guy, he is literally, that is a fucking chess move. Like, listen, it's totally a morally irreprehensible one.
Yeah, of course.
That's a fucking chess move and a half, isn't it? Because here's the difference. When I say something about Zeus being mad overrated or whatever, I just really mean that. Like, I don't do it because I know in a week from now, me and Zeus get together, cross streams together, you know, like put like a massive, like, have like a meeting of the minds, and we really talk it out like that. If I did, I'd be some sort of evil genius. I'm not, though. That's just my opinion. He obviously does this as a setup. And not least, by the way, think of this as well, Richard. Think about the mild opinions that can get you fired in media and sports now. You can never fire Skip Bayless. He is literally too powerful. Like, he couldn't even be fired for what is at this point in time, like, almost an indefensible opinion to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so, you know, listen, and here's the other thing about him. I don't even know necessarily if it's an opinion he genuinely believes. I think
he does, but I think he just, like, you know, he knows when to put a bit of price on it, if you know what I mean.
But also one thing I think he does is, right, essentially you can distill a debate down to point counterpoint. You know, this is what I think. Well, I think the opposite, right? And that's essentially what discussion is. Like, very often it's binary. That's a problem in and of itself. It's driven a lot of things that aren't binary to be discussed as if they are. But I won't segue.
Without going deep into it, people on CS desks in the modern day would also say the same thing. Well, one of us is going to be picking Cloud9.
Like, no, why?
What are you talking about?
Yeah. So what I think Skip does a lot of the time is he looks at which is most likely to be the popular side of the opinion, and he knows the debate has to happen anyway because there will be people who disagree with what is considered an understandable narrative, and because he's Skip Bayless, he just adopts that position. It's almost, which I'm sure he doesn't know this, but it's what they used to do in ancient Greece, you know. You know, when they used to have debates, like in the fucking, you know, the equivalent of the fucking Senate or whatever, it was very often the case that the person who felt one way about something argued the opposite to the best of his rhetorical skills because it was the ultimate way to ensure all points of view had sort of been considered, and that even the people who were presenting something as being the way to go understood the counter-argument. It was like a massive sign of respect and also an incredible intellectual exercise. Now, I'm not saying Skip Bayless is doing that.
No.
But coincidentally, he might be doing that, you know.
He's using like a boiled down version of that to ensure that there is controversy. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sorry, the Agora, I should say. I should know that. I've been to Greece. So anyway, we'll move on. So basically, it's Trump. Reply, guys, to answer your question easily. Guran asks, have there been any successful CS leagues that have used the LAN cafe style where all the teams have home and away games for each round at each team's home arena, similar to how you would do it in traditional sports like football?
Never existed.
Yeah.
The first was like in the early days in 1.6, we had a thing called the Swedish Esport League, but that was more like, because they had obviously amazing LAN cafe set, that was just you had to go to your LAN cafe to play the online game. But there was never this like home and away part. Like, as far as I know, that sounds like some sort of shit that like Overwatch League was trying to do.
Well, I was just going to say the closest we've come to this idea of home and away games and it mattering is this is part of the Overwatch League's model. And so far with COVID and everything, obviously it's been utterly destroyed. I think you will see it though. They're still going to go for it. But, you know, they do mad shit like, where's your local LA team? Shanghai? Brilliant. So,
I know.
So who fucking knows, you know? But yeah, it hasn't been tried.
Violate every core tenet of what the league was supposed to be. It's just been put in the bin by now.
Yeah,
brilliant.
You got to love it as well. The LA Valiant Org, which of course it's always relevant to our interests because they're the people who fucked over Optic, fucked over MIBR as well. You got to love that they were like, oh, the bloody thing is, we've just moved to China. Because of COVID restrictions, we couldn't keep our bloody roster. Getting visas for them was just impossible. I guess we'll have to bloody pick up a local Chinese group of players that just so happen are going to be loads cheaper and will resonate more with local LA fans. Like, fuck off. Like, gee, that's the most outrageous, obvious lie. You gotta, like, who's fucking buying that?
By the way, here's a little, I'll give everyone a thought exercise. Well, I think I've always said it, I think it's one of the most important roles I can play in the community. It's because my brain works differently and I have a different set of experience to a lot of people. I just always see things that are obvious that someone should say, but no one's bringing it up. Here's one for you, right? Think about all the press the Overwatch League has had, all the thousands of articles. We're talking about the biggest newspapers in the world, massive TV networks. We're talking about like people who are from totally other fields, like billionaires coming in. Well, here's my thoughts on esports and franchising. Right? Explain this to me, right? In the modern day, you're presented with this facade where we're not supposed to believe that the mainstream media is essentially just salaried fucking yes men for corporations, sort of just doing PR, but not officially for the corporation. We're supposed to believe it's an independent press that holds people's feet to the fire. And here's the more important part, Richard: publishes stories that get a lot of attention, but that are critical of companies, right? Yeah. They'll criticize the president. They'll criticize the way this massive company, they'll criticize donators to campaigns. Notice it all on one side, but let's put that to one side. Where are the mainstream journalists, award-winning journalists, real massive people in the world of business, finances? Where's the articles saying don't invest in the Overwatch League? It's not worth the money. The numbers haven't lived up to it. Where's the articles saying scandal as LA-based team buys Chinese organization and moves to Asia? Where are these articles? They don't exist. It's all fake. It's all fucking put up through media manipulation. I wouldn't be surprised if Blizzard outright pays some of these people to write these articles. If not directly, you do it through like third and fourth level of abstractions. Like that Overwatch League is only ever mentioned as if it was a fucking infomercial. There is not a single shred of reporting that is about this, even though if it was a real thing, you think, by the way, millionaire businessmen who've heard a little bit about esports wouldn't love an article like, actually, here's why I wouldn't buy into one of the franchise leagues. You don't see it. It doesn't exist. And by the way, there's plenty of people who work in esports who have their tangential move in the mainstream, but you're all such star fuckers. You want to be the guy writing the positive article.
You're gonna see, right, the real test, because these mainstream journalists, basically, they're either friends of Activision Blizzard, a huge media company, and like you say, they'll write puff pieces and nowhere to be seen when there's very valid criticisms, or they're pals with Riot, and they were the three, monkeys, see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil, when all of their heinous shit was going on. Like, why am I calling out Riot Games in fucking 2014, 2015 for something that 6 years later, a report is heralded as like, oh, this is absolute groundbreaking, unprecedented stuff? We all knew, we all heard the fucking rumors. Like, I was on stream every day banging on about how they treat people, how they treat women, weird cult-like practices. No journalist, by the way, ever reached out to me. Would you like to clarify that? There was one who did, and that was after the mainstream story had already gone out there. It's like, listen, like, these people don't want to go against huge fucking corporations, especially ones with like all that Chinese megacorp money coming in, because you can get squashed like a bug. But fuck you. If you want to live forever, don't be a journalist. Like, you know what I mean?
Here's the funny thing, by the way. I even predicted this a few years back. Like, I'll put it longer. Let's say like 5 years ago, when people started to say, because everyone got so sick and tired with Counterstrike, especially if all the articles were like, you're going to be a school shooter and you're a terrorist. When everyone said that, I said this to people back then. I said, good news and bad news. Good news is that's all going away soon. The reason it's going away is because the game devs are getting so enormous. Eventually, the fucking corporate media ain't going to speak against them because they are the corporate media, you daft cunts. Like, that's the problem. We're at the point where, because Amazon owns Twitch and then like YouTube's balls deep in it. Like, mate, but it's now no longer in the interest of those journalists to do that. They might make it that you, the individual gamer, are the terrorist. They're never going to make it anymore that the game is what's making. Like, that's the one good news. Sadly, it's bad news because we've just been sucked into literally Satan's arsehole right now. So don't expect anything nice to come out of it.
The game didn't radicalize you. It was these politics, actually, and for some reason, just bad people happen to play this video game. That's the new angle of attack, Right. Anyway, Chingu. If you could be reincarnated as any animal, what animal would it be?
I think I already did this joke, and it was like Dossier or something, wasn't it? Some shit like that.
No, that was Fursuit.
All right, yes. Let's pick a real one, though, because the idea for this one has to be, right, that it'd be really awesome to be this animal, I'm assuming, right? So let me think, what would I pick for that?
I know mine. I'm straight sharking.
The problem with that is, Richard, a shark has a life very much like yours, mate. It has to keep moving at all times.
Yes.
You know, all it has is it's essentially just a wall of teeth just interacting with the world. And at the end, it just definitely dies.
And everyone hates it.
For the shark, yeah.
Everyone hates it because they saw that one movie. Wait, didn't that shark eat Lauder on that boat? And he said, "Smile, you son of a bitch!" At the end, like, no, I mean, it's because it's what I know. Like, I could come back as a shark and like not be confused. Yeah,
what does that mean, mate? It's what I know.
It's what I know.
It's a mental statement. Like, it's what I know, mate. It's been living shark my whole life. What do you want about?
Yeah. That's how. It's what I know, Sam.
Mate, you've never hunted a meal past a fridge. What do you mean? You're gonna be suddenly.
That's not
but
true.
You ain't like hunting animals, You're not like some.
I've been hunting, not to eat though. Just to be a gun.
Basically, what I think you're missing what you're saying. He's saying like you're saying it as though like you've already sort of got the life of a shark down.
No, what I'm saying is the psychology, the brain, the thing that's going to transfer over. Like a shark makes sense to me. That's all I'm saying. So it wouldn't be like a mad, like you come back as a fucking, let's say, a deer. I don't know. How am I doing that? The Jesus of esports. Who would round your list as the 12 apostles of esports? I'm not listing 12 people. I refuse to do this, Alice. 12
it's
people.
It's obviously just going to be like Moses, Anders, fucking Samuel, whatever.
Yeah. But who would be the Judas is the interesting part of the question.
Let me think. Because it has to be someone where, like, remember, he actually loved Judas. So on the one hand, someone you want in the group, but someone like, can you trust him, though? Who would be the Judas on that one, though?
I'm trying to think who.
Probably D-Man or something, and it's got to be someone sneaky.
No, but like who? Like I'm trying to think. There's plenty of people who fucking betrayed me in esports.
Steele?
No, he didn't betray me. Yeah, really?
He did low key. Put it this way, I'm not joking. Listen, this is one area where you actually, in some ways, I can't tell if you're softer than me or more enlightened. Put it this way, I would never forgive him for what he did to you, mate. I would take that to my grave. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Look, I mean. I don't know. So you can call it a softness. I think maybe, because I understand the game. Like, okay, let's say me and you were playing rugby together, right? And we're mates, but we're on different teams. And you've got the ball, you're running at me, and I'll fucking absolutely snot you. Like, I just ruin you. Drop the shoulder in. I even lift you a little bit and slam you down. And I give you like a little pat on the head, like being a cunt and that. Like, if you carry that over off the pitch, you're the dickhead, not me. Okay. Right? Because like you're welcome to do that to me on the pitch because that's the fucking game. Like I've got something to win. There's a price and there's rules of engagement, and I'll stay within them. And like if we can't have a beer afterwards and laugh that off, like maybe we're not friends.
Okay.
And I've known people like that, by the way, because it has happened where I've played people in like contact sports or I remember one time I used to know this guy called fucking Sanel who used to run this fucking. I used to run this bar, and I used to be mates with this guy called Sanel. Right? He was always talking about how he wanted to be a boxer, and so the bar I ran as a living manager, I had a fucking like Charlie Chalks boxing area in the end. I said, "Tell you what, mate, come back after work, and me and you, we'll fucking have a sparring session. I'll teach you some things." And some of the other lads from work wanted to stay back and see because he was younger than me. So we're in there and we're throwing hands, and it's just a sparring session. It's not, but he's really trying to land power punches on me to show the gallery, right? So he's just gone in for one. And I've just given him a fucking quick straight, just sitting right back down on his ass. Because it's like, listen, you're the fucking learner, right? He's had a mad tantrum about it, and like a week later, Andy's noticing. He was proper threatening to do me over it. And it's like, listen, mate, don't come to the fucking big boy's yard if you ain't got fucking big boy brains. So when Steele, to link it all to this, when Steele basically came out and said he's lying, he's making it up, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it is an attack on my integrity. Yes, it could potentially harm my reputation. But the rules of that particular engagement, what's he left with? What else can he do? He can only cop to it, or he's got to lie. He's in that Lance Armstrong world where it's like, well, you're already doping, so what's the lie on top of the doping? You're already a cheat. So by definition, if you are going to be a cheat, you are going to have to lie. That's how it works. So I don't hate him for that. any more than I don't hate him for fixing the game. The bit that was annoying was that when I held my hand out to him privately and said, listen, if you come clean, I'm telling you, it'll go over better with the general public, and you might even save yourself from a real heinous punishment. He turned that down not once but twice. And that's what frustrated me. But now I don't. He wouldn't be a Judas in my book. Like, I still love the guy.
Who's betrayed you that you could possibly in this sense?
It's hard, like, because the problem with Judas is he was Jesus's fucking Bezzy.
Right, there you go then. Yours has to be someone brutal. It has to be like Robert Owen then.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? I don't think about him. Yeah, that is the... Is it a betrayal even? But yeah, that one really hurts the most. Because you have to understand the relationship me and Robert had. Like, so first of all, I've never renounced Robert Owen. I know he's had all sorts of problems. And he said some outrageous whack shit. Sure. He said I was like Mussolini, is what he said. I don't even know how that can possibly be true, other than maybe our fucking waist size. But he went through losing his company, betrayed by his father, straight into a fucking divorce. Then watch
people talk about Twitter meltdowns, and they're nearly always doing it inappropriately. By the way, he had a real Twitter meltdown. Like, as he was literally, you could see him losing his mind on Twitter.
Yeah, well, no, but like, so this is like one thing to look out for if you're ever worried about someone's mental health. When everything else in their life starts going so fundamentally bad, so awful, that they have to like immediately supplant themselves to something else. And that's what American politics becoming so popular has been such a cancerous form of it's entertainment to these people in a way, but it's not fun. It's absolutely sick, and the stakes are unbelievably high because Americans are just mental. So you know, what he did, he should have no interest in it. He's Swedish, you know, he's a Swede. He was living in London at the time. Shouldn't bother him at all. But yeah, unfortunately, I knew once he started going down that rabbit hole, it was going to be very hard for me and him to maintain a relationship, because I do not subscribe to this American narrative that goes one way and it's this way or nothing at all, when I can remember more than 2 years back when Dems were saying the exact opposite of what they're saying now. You know, if you're not willing to hold a politician accountable, you know, equally, you know, then you shouldn't. You've got no place being in this game. You're just a drone. You're not a thinker. You're a drone. So yeah, Robert Owen really hurt because he called me a Mussolini in public, like implied I was racist. Said like his friendship with me was a mistake, and you know, me and him had many good years together. You know, I used to go around his house, you know, see his kids fucking playing Minecraft and that, and. You know, I owe him so much of my career. Like, I'll never renounce him. Like, I always still hold out hope, by the way, that one day he's going to come back and go, listen, my head went. But, so even to call him a Judas is harsh. Like, I mean, I can't imagine going through what he went through, mate. It would have pushed me over the edge, probably. I've come close. I've lost my mind. I know what it's like. I've literally lost my mind, as in, I have broke with reality and had to come back later on. So, you know, like maybe that's the difference. I don't know if you've ever actually lost your mind.
I don't think so.
Like, as
you know, in terms of like, you know, stress or whatever, you know, think shit going bad in your life. I don't think I've ever really had like a break or anything.
Yeah, I'm not talking about doing drugs.
There's another thing we'll throw in there as well. Another reason why I'm so bored of the tactic. I always make this point, I'll make it again. I don't believe the sentiments almost anyone expressed online. I believe they're just tactics, right? So the tactic of like, well, we must talk about mental health, and then the same person is the one where if you make a tweet now where you were just like, fuck today, they'd be like, wow, are you having spiraling? You're having a meltdown. It's like, how inappropriate is that by your own logic? What the fuck?
No, but it's like, you know, you see a lot of the, like, again, it comes back to that argument like you had recently with a journalist. Well, not even an argument, because you didn't even engage them directly. You just pointed out what they said. Because I agree. I think the way you treat Twitter now as a one-way medium, loads better, like way more sensible. I should probably do that. But I do get a weird, sick, perverse pleasure about arguing with morons, and I need to phase that out of my life. But, you know, the reality is, yeah, like, you know, I think about some of the stuff I've had fucking tweeted at me. I think about the sheer volume of times I've been told to kill myself, like after going through like an unbelievably difficult year. And like, I've never, again, no one's ever like these people who talk about the importance of mental health, like people I know, yeah, no one's ever reached out. No one's ever, are you okay? Oh, I saw that tweet. Like, you know, it's not got to you, is it? Meanwhile, of course, people reach out to me all the time for like mundane, trivial shit. Thorin's blocked me. Yeah, well, you know, I can't really do much about that, like, unless you want me to fucking, you know, take over his mind and you know, and it's like, I don't know, it's, yeah, people don't really care. People care about mental health as a concept. People don't care about applying that concept to individuals because it gets really tricky and really difficult. And generally, it's so much effort for like almost no reward. That people don't bother. So, but yeah,
scores on the internet for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I need to come back, but yeah, I don't really. I think calling someone a Judas, like Judas betrayed his former best friend for a derisory amount of money to basically have him killed. I don't think anyone.
Well, we know the obvious one. Then I'll have Slasher. Then there you go.
Slasher for you.
It just fits all the fucking boxes, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
if people don't know, I'll make one statement right now because I don't generally talk about this person because that's how egregious the way they behaved was.
Yeah.
This is someone where, because Richard's the only person who can confirm this, literally up until last year was still trying to back channel and become my best friend. He just will never ever take the first step and apologize publicly. He wants to do it all cleanly and have us just forget all the things he's done. Meanwhile, up until last year, he was still for the last 3 years saying literal things like, I am not allowed to be in esports. I am harmful to the space and will destroy it. So simultaneously doing that publicly while privately being a little bitch the whole time. Like, that's like the ultimate level of betrayal, isn't it? Because the sad thing is the person doesn't even have the courage of what they're saying. Like, they don't even mean it. It's pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, so me and Rod, I think it was, I can't remember, we ended up doing something together, and then he came on that fucking stream, you know, where we were talking about Counterstrike and all of that. And like, he said to me like multiple times privately, like that he feels bad. He was going through some shit, you know. He knows it was immature. He just wanted to, like, you know, get some vengeance, like, you know, and it's childish stuff. And he keeps saying that he's gonna like write this like ultimate apology, like, which is gonna like a mea culpa for all the stuff. But also, you know, he like it's one of those situations where it's like, I've seen you say stuff about him. He's definitely gone too far in the stuff he said about you. I've told him that straight to his face. I definitely think he has to apologize to it. I don't know why somebody with the roots he's got in esports would want to isolate himself from other people who've got the same roots, because we're a fucking dying breed. We're, you know, so it's a weird one. But yeah, no doubt, especially around that website you used to work at, On Gamers or whatever. Like, that's legit. You know, he essentially took everyone's jobs away through an act of, like, incompetence, but almost like hubris as well. So yeah, it's not a bad shout. Carve asks, rank the Balkan inventions, these Balkan inventions, okay, so we don't have to know them all, from best to worst. Hair clippers, alternating current, the phrase Carrigan is overrated.
Right, okay.
And for the ranking system that says Simple hasn't been the number one CSGO player in the world for the past 2 years, despite playing the game on Nightmare mode.
What I like about this is, obviously, when I saw alternating current, I was like, we can stop there, guy. That obviously wins. But I realized, because it then became a meme, listen, 3 and 4 are straight fire. Because if people don't get the reference, obviously the notion is it's Nico saying Carrigan's overrated. Yeah. And then, as I always go to great pains to point out, please stop saying that Cold Zero was the number one ranked player in 2017. He wasn't. A guy from Serbia told you he was. That's literally it. That is the factual way to say that sentence. Now, the fact that everyone just goes, well, if a guy from Serbia says it, may as well be God writing it in the language of the universe. It's a fact. That's beyond me. I'll never get that ever in my entire life. But I get that is the way we live. So I guess by this logic, if we believe in the way CS goes, number 4 is probably the most important one, isn't it? I'd say Ultimate Current is obviously the most important one. It probably runs all the equipment we're using this fucking show with right now.
They have nailed it there, haven't they?
He did a pretty good job on that one, didn't he?
Reykjavik on Steam, with the Australian CS players getting a 12-month ban and claiming there weren't any rules against it that they saw, is it safe to say that the iBuy bans were pointless? I mean, pointless, no, but unfortunately, the fact that there wasn't sort of an immediate framework put in place, Valve didn't, you know, they like, you can't sweep something under the carpet and then expect people to learn a lesson from it, because it's not there. It's under the fucking carpet. And that was the problem with the iBuyPower guys. It was like, it quickly became like some mythological story, like this one-off thing. Meanwhile, match fixing was happening on a daily basis. Now, if Valve had gone off the back of the iBuyPower and said, we're now going to hold an investigation to the competitive integrity of all of our major tournaments, and we're going to put infrastructure in place, so moving forward, we're going to look at betting patterns, all of this, and we're going to work with this third party to do it and all that. Well, I mean, we're not in the mess we're in now. That's for sure. But the reality is, unfortunately, they probably thought, swift, sharp shot, ban iBuyPower, no one will ever fix a match again. Well, if you're not going to a Valve tournament, if you're not at that caliber, what's the incentive still? There isn't any. There isn't any. No one talks about it. And those who do get told, you are exaggerating how widespread it is. No, we're not. We're not. So, not pointless, just handled really improperly. How do 6+ man rosters affect the great hair ratio and fat guy theory? So for those who don't know, it's that every team has to have someone with great hair.
I think it's from a War Owl video.
Yeah, and every team has to have a fat guy if you want to win. I don't think 6-man rosters really make a great deal. It's been interesting actually, because I was vehemently to go serious for a minute, Lonnie. I was vehemently against the 6-man roster idea. I don't think that they're a good idea. If I was running a team, I still now wouldn't implement one. I'd have like a guy I would go to be a stand-in if someone got sick or had to take holiday or personal time, so we could meet contractual requirements. But the idea of having a 6th guy that we swap in and out for certain maps and all that, never going to fly for me. But having seen Bit get developed at Na'Vi, haven't obviously seen Vitality use it well. Fuck Astralis, like that was a publicity stunt. I don't know. I could be warming up to the idea. What about you?
Like my position now is sort of like in line with what I think Vitality is doing, which is I think it's not actually a terrible idea if you do it cynically, like you do it like I always say, if you're already planning to see, like basically it's a way to test the guy out without fully committing and putting all your eggs in that one fucking basket. You can still back out and go back to the other guy, or you can make it temporarily work, but in the future, eventually, in my opinion, if they're good enough, you have to pick one way or the other. So I think it's as a short-term play, I don't hate it basically, but I don't actually personally think that like 10 years from now, every team has 6 or 7 players or whatever. I don't think that's the future. And that's obviously ignoring the fact that Valve's essentially like fucked it at the moment and crippled it. But I mean, even if it was possible, I think it's going to only happen in rare circumstances.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Jerky's Minion. Could we have Sam create a deep fake of Thorin as Horatio Kane from CSI Miami, and then use it in a skit?
Am I right in assuming, because I never watched those shows, that I assume that's the one with the ginger guy where he puts the shades on, like, I guess in the end, Nico,
yeah,
below it all.
What's his name, the actor? Because he was in David Caruso, he was in NYPD Blue, wasn't he?
Yes.
I used to watch NYPD Blue. I've never watched CSI in my life. But, yeah, I like, he's the one who does the shades on and then, the Who comes in and all that. Yeah, I'll be down for that, Jerky. That's a good suggestion. I'm sure Duncan loves to act. He'll just do it himself.
If people have never seen, right, basically that guy just goes along and they go like, sir, this is the new lineup. The Cuban has said their team is dead though and they've had to remove Legay. And you go, I guess in the end, nobody is going to envy us. And it goes like, it's all some shit fucking setup like that. Like, basically, it was. I say why it was popular with some people, but it wasn't that funny. Come on, it wasn't worth doing a million of them, was it? Come on.
No, but it's been gone long enough. Now it might be something that can come back.
This is a hellscape, this whole culture, and like the things we're like now referring back to as legendary don't deserve it whatsoever. Like that status in any context, do they? Because now when people are like 90s fashion is back, and I see people, no joke, Richard, I'm not even joking right now. I have seen people in real life wearing those trackies that everyone was loving in the early 90s. The ones with all the poppers on the side, those Adidas ones. People unironically wearing that, thinking it's fire, Richard. Not because they've just stole it off someone's fucking like washing line. It's 1996 or whatever, and fucking to become one. Oh no, I'll be having these. I think no, they're unironically in 2021 wearing those trackies again. I can't even believe this.
You knew it was going to happen. Fashion always goes round in fucking circles.
I'm out.
Right, Chris asks, Chris with a K. We all have instances where we are faced with an important life-changing choice, be it a relationship, job opportunity, business venture, etc. Each of those. Each of those decisions leaves a path where another version of yourself would continue on separately. If you were casting for Butterfly Effect 2, Revenge... I don't even know. I'm not reading that. But Butterfly Effect 2. What interesting parallel universe would be interesting enough to cast in the movie?
So basically, we're sort of doing like a counterfactual. Like we pick a moment, I'm assuming, in our life, and we go left instead of right, and then we, what would happen in our life in that regard or whatever. I know yours, mate. Even though, like, I know you've referenced it before, but like that story you told me years and years and years ago about how you could have like moved to America with some woman and like had a whole life. That's surely one, because that would be like that could be a totally like a life that's nothing like you have now.
So here's the big three for me. I had an opportunity to go to a very wealthy private school because I got 100% in like maths and English in like when they do the tests for like the peons when I was a kid. Right. But as we've talked about before, there was some dubious things happening in all boys private schools that I wasn't really I didn't really like the sound of. So I didn't go. But then it's like I look at some of the people who did that kind of
are they like shakers in the world?
Oh, you know how it goes, mate. You know how it goes. All that Masons bullshit, So there was that, right? I could have maybe gone to Oxford or Cambridge off the back of that. I almost certainly would have done, probably, and I would have been an academic. So who the fuck knows what an academic version of me is like? Then there's the one you talked about. Don't need to elaborate any further, but basically could have been a weed farmer in Colorado. It probably is interesting. But the one that probably has to go in the movie would be if I'd got in the Royal Marines. That's got to be the one, because I obviously went down and had all the tests and that, and I could do all the physical stuff. But my mate got in and I didn't, and like that probably, like, what would I have been like if I'd served in Iraq, basically? Because that's what my generation's war essentially was. That's where Chris got killed. I would have done. So if me and him had gone through on the same troop, we'd have done a tour of Serbia, Bosnia, sorry, tour of Bosnia, a tour of Sierra Leone, right, where they fought the West Side Boys, the insurgent group, and rescued two like special forces guys who'd been abducted, and then a tour of Iraq. So I probably got some stories then, So I think
Nico when he was much younger.
Well, yeah.
You could have gone, who's that daft little 4-year-old kid with redhead? Like, stop! We're not sharing all the sweets. Anyway, got to go now, Sarge.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, that would have probably been an interesting story. Although, I mean, the thing no one wants to talk about when you're sitting there talking with all your mates who've got back from a deployment and you're happy to see them and they're on leave and you're having a beer and they're acting all happy and you're having a good time. They've got problems inside, guys. Like, just letting you know. So I'm glad I don't have that trauma and just all the other trauma I got. So what about you?
I don't really have any big ones. Like, there's never really in my... Like, I actually have one in esports that people don't know. I might one day tell the story. Essentially, if I'd have chosen not to stop working with the SEA, I would, in something like 3 years, have been a millionaire. I've mentioned it in the past, but like, look, it's not one I ever worry about, because like I said, that's not my way of thinking. Like, especially if people don't realize, one of the good things about my career, this is something a lot of people won't understand when they say you're burning bridges, is I always do what I want to do. So the good thing about doing what you want to do is, no matter what happens, you go, right, that was what the end result of doing what I wanted to do was. I don't have to do the one where it's like, well, I want to do X, but I know I should do Y because it makes, it's safer and it's the obvious plan. And I don't live my life going, oh, what if I'd done X? Like, I just do X every time and that's it. And so it just works. And obviously, fucking don't clip that in. I just do X all the time. Fucking banging in it. Take some alpha brain in the morning. I'm all right. Whatever. You get the point, though. I've just gone for it. So I don't really worry about the cat fight. But that would be an interesting one. Because think about this, by the way. I always say, I'm so glad to have made my mistakes exactly the moments I made them, Richard. Even in esports modern, like the big real scandals weren't even the last ones. They were ones where people just decided I was going to have to be involved in a scandal. Like, apparently, everyone in esports just collectively decided etymology as a field didn't exist. Literally, that was a scandal. So the real scandals I had are in like 2016. So I actually luckily got them in just under the wire before they would actually potentially just fuck your entire career and you'd maybe like exiled forever. So I actually always think all the real scandals I've had somewhat are like, I had them when it was like there was still enough mobility to get around them and for it not to kill your career. But I do look back and I think, mate, if I was a millionaire, like I'm talking a liquid cash millionaire in 2007, woo, I could have made some Elon Musk level mistakes with some of the things I would have said and done, or worse, Kanye level shit. Like it could have gone really. But it's weird. That would be a hell of a movie. But it also might be a tragic one. Who knows?
And then I think this is the last.
The last thing, basically, you ever want to do is give me fuck you money, but about 10+ years ago.
So these are the last ones. First, Sock. Who would you like to see paired up with Sadikist if you would assume he came back to casting? I mean, it's a weird one because there's so many people out there right now that like haven't necessarily had the opportunity to shine and kind of like develop their skills. And there's also a lot of established duos. The good thing is, like, Sadikist's good enough to work with anyone, obviously. Yes. Like,
he's going to make the baseline level good no matter what. Yeah. The question is, who's the right partner for him in that sense, isn't it?
You know, and we've talked about it before with Jackie. The one thing is, like, even though Jackie and Sadikist, when they did the finals of the bot major for us, and like, it was a really good cast. The one thing I would say is they definitely overlap in terms of like wordplay and stuff like that. I can imagine it being a bit like a rich chocolate cake, you know, where it's like one slice will do you. If you were hearing that every game, maybe that might get a bit wearing. That's no disrespect to either of them, but it's like you need a pairing that complements the other, not a pairing where someone goes over it. I don't think Vince ever cast with him. Did they ever do a cast together, Vince?
I don't think so. I mean, technically, they're like sort of.
They must have at some point.
They might have done one, maybe, yeah.
But you know, I mean, like at the end of the day, you know. I don't know. First things first, I'd just like to see Sadikist come back.
Yes.
Although not that he needs to, because apparently he's doing all the iRacing now, getting paid for that. And that brings him closer to his dream of actually working in Formula 1, which is what he really wants to do. So, I mean, the question is, if you get offered a lifeline to go and do something that you really love, why would you come back to esports? Like, because it's a fucking hellhole over here, you know? So...
Here's the irony, right? Is the two obvious people to me would be Moses or Sponge, because Moses was originally going to be like a caster.
Him and Sponge would be killer.
And the problem with this, right, is I don't know how much I'll say about this, so I'll just leave it very light like this. Here's the issue. I think him and Sponge would be incredible. Like, if you look at their skill sets, I think they both would, in theory, you wouldn't step on each other's toes. You could just both kill it in your job. Could be like a modern day Henry and Sado in that regard. The problem is, as far as I know, without dropping any down, I just don't think they get along as people. So I'm not sure that would work. Because I think, especially in the modern day, where you have to spend so much time with the person, you can't really sort of like dislike them in any sense. I think it's going to be hard to make that relationship work, basically. But again, we're talking about just spitballing. Obviously, these are never going to happen.
Smarter Superman, has Valve declared how they feel about 6-man rosters? No. Getting Valve to comment on anything is impossible, so that's a nice, easy one.
Notice they don't allow themselves to actually engage in any format that involves follow-up questions.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. I saw that we had 3 questions come in there, Sam, after the main clump. We'll carry them over onto the next show because just before we do go, here's something I wanted to show you, and I forgot to do it. But let me. Here we go. I know. I think you saw this. So there's a kid who plays professional Fortnite called Young Calc. I don't know how old he is. I think he's like 16.
No, I've seen this thing. Come on.
Yeah, right. So Young Calc's like he seems a good kid. He works hard, takes the game seriously, seems decent enough player. Follows me. He's obviously got impeccable taste in esports content. You know, and he's a Fortnite player, but he's young enough. He'll probably graduate towards something real somewhere down the line. Anyway, he just talked about like it's fucking stressful, you know, being a pro and working towards excellence and winning things and all that, right? And guess who replied to him saying, "What do you mean it's easy being a pro? It's only your boy Dick fucking Stacy, Lord of the semi-professional lifestyle." Check this out. I think we figured out why he didn't make it, boys. He replied with saying, "Lol, what? Being a pro is one of the least stressful and best things you can be. Grinding a video game you love versus the best, a flexible lifestyle and hours, all while having the potential to travel the world and getting paid good money. My shit this morning was more stressful." I hope now I am vindicated about the semi-pro thing, by the way, because the idea of a professional at anything having like, flexible hours, I just come and go as I please.
Especially me.
I know.
Could you imagine sitting down like fucking Glaive as he comes in with that doctor's note, like, literally, Astralis, you're now legally obliged to give me time off now. Yeah. And then just going, actually, we're just going to bring in our expert consultant, Dick Stacey, and he's going to explain to you, Glaive, why actually it's got a lot of flexible hours. Like, it makes this sound like owning your own little, like when you retire and you have a little business selling fucking gnomes or something. Like, a pro player in Counterstrike has to play every fucking day in theory. He literally can't even choose where he lives in the world. Like, this guy, it shows what an alien world he was living in. Living in some fucking other dimension.
The thing is, as well, people like I saw a lot of people coming out and saying, "Oh, he's obviously joking. That's like Dick Stacey. He likes to troll people." He's arguing in that thread. Like he's arguing that thread. He says, "When you're a pro in a game, it's an online daycare for kids. It's the classic. I'd love to see you work a labour job for a week and watch your skinny, fat, pale body actually go through something stressful." Like,
the one thing I'm sick and tired of as well is the notion. This shows how people don't care about mental health, Richard. Yeah. Like the notion that somehow to do physical labour is almost like Protestant work ethic. Like it's just like inherently like that's like what you should be doing. That's what you owe to the world. But to do a job, by the way, like an obvious example would be like CEO of an enormous company that on the one hand could make twice as much revenue next year, or completely be busted and make 1,000 people jobless. Somehow, right? Because that's all mental. That's no work at all, Richard. That's just easy.
I know. The idea.
I've worked jobs where you just do 8 hours labour. You know what? It sucks on a physical level to some degree. But the other thing is, it's in its own way. You can also zone out.
I was just going to say, put it this way, like, you know, like there's aspects of this job I do now, which is like, you know, whatever it is, like content creator, journalist, editor at large, you know, whatever thing people think my job actually is, right? Like, you know, there's aspects of this where, yeah, you know what? I do fucking miss getting up, waiting for the van, you know, getting up at fucking 5, waiting for the van, going to a fucking site, you know, putting a roof on, you know, have a cup of tea at 11, sandwich with the boys, listening to the radio, having a bit of banter back and forth, finish off your job, clock off at fucking 5, you know, straight to bed, and then you've got your cash, you get your pay packet given to you in your hand, and you go fucking blow it on the weekend. I miss those days. I didn't have to think about none of this shit. I couldn't even, if you'd have said to me, like then, when I was working those kind of jobs, Rich, in like 10 years from now, you're going to be terrified of like doing a typo on a social media app. Don't worry about what social media is, because it could ruin your entire life to the point where if you leave your house, someone might kill you. I'd be like, well, how's any of that even possible? How could that be a reality? How could that hellscape ever come to pass? And yet here we are. So yeah, give me, you know, the idea that, like you say, things that are like really tough cerebrally, just because they don't hurt your fucking back in the morning, like it's not tough. It's just an absurd premise. Not to mention, he's literally arguing with like a fucking 16-year-old about where you'll see what it's like when you. No, mate, here's the reality, Ollie. I won't call you Dick because, you know, you'll think I'm being funny about it. But here's the reality, Ollie. You were never a pro. You were a guy who, because he knew some guys who were maybe good enough to be a pro, you got a chance to swim in that world for 5 fucking minutes. You're like the guys from the NFL in '87 who basically were the scabs. Who brought the strike. They got to play in like 1 or 2 NFL games. Great story for the grandkids, a memory, something to remember. You were never a pro. You were never about this life. You were never even close. Never. You weren't good enough. You weren't driven enough. You weren't smart enough. You were a fucking walking meme. You didn't get picked to do all them bits with Carmack and on the stage at IM because you were fucking legitimately a star or legitimately funny. You were a fucking meme. You were flavor of the month. And that month is long gone now. And now you're just a clown. Like, he's got in his bio, message me for business opportunities, and he's got his email. Mate, if I need a patio fitting, I'll call you. Until then, stay the fuck out of esports. You were out your element when you were here. You're even more out your fucking element talking now.
All I'm going to say is this, boys. You could literally be a bricklayer and listen to this show while doing your job absolutely competently. You couldn't lay a load of bricks while also doing this show. So which one's harder?
Yeah,
that's obviously a joke, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Got it. Right then, that's it. The questions, we'll carry them other ones over to next episode. Will be next week. I'm sure me and Duncan will fix all our sleeping patterns, and I won't be dying a keto. So whatever. Right. First thing, shout out to the sponsors. Obviously, go show. .com, some love. Sign up with .com RLS, so go watch that Twists interview. Also, as well, I think on Saturday they're releasing a bit of content where it's like my CS memories. So there'll be some good stories in there that I'm sure I haven't told. That's going to be coming out, so keep an eye on that. Make sure you're on that YouTube channel. CS, obviously, as well, go get 70% off a VPN. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. VPN's good. And obviously, shout out to the patrons, our $100 contributors: Jerky's Minion, Blunt Smoking Sex Enthusiast, Carve, Flacksmith, Hannah Maru Alice, J Dubs, Marcus Chiumpar, Tobias Bernasconi, Zarathenia, and Cathal. Our $50 patrons: Gustav, Backin, Goody Woody, Chris with a K, Gerhan Kaya, Lonnie, Fursock, Smart as Superman, Gaming Paul DK, Elon, Echo, Rezchi, Miss Alcoholic, BP420, Watch Doge, Reykjavik on Steam, Manuel Stockley, Benakagi, Alexi, and Sard Sawar. That was By the Numbers. We'll see you sometime next week. Until then, take care of yourselves.